Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
The following is a quotation mark from, or I should say a quotation of great words by Milton Friedman, and quite frankly, he tells it like it is. If you put the federal government in charge of the Sahara Desert, in 5 years there'd be a shortage of sand. Amen. Good morning, everybody. Zeb at the Ranch on a Monday. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America. Good morning, everybody. Have a good one. Last day of March, 31st, tomorrow, April. I love that song. I love that lady. Good morning, everybody. Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And, of course, some of our great advertisers include Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more at 459 Overland in Burley. And our thanks also to Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Start on the route service today. Call them 734-6969. Let's ask Gina how we're coming through over there this morning.
46.
Okay. Could you give me just a shot, a twist, a real skosh, maybe just a touch of more in my headsets? Just a touch.
Just a skosh?
That's it. You got it. All right.
Okay, got covered.
Hey, Gina, I hope you had a good weekend.
I did. It was very productive, and one little boy has got a brand new bedroom.
And he is a happy camper because Mom and everybody else ripped up the old carpeting and helped with the hardwood floors.
Oh, and here's the thing with my home. It was built in 1928, beautiful hardwood floors, and for some reason they decided back when carpet was cool that they put in brand new carpet. Well, it had been there for forever, and so we ripped it out, and lo and behold, beautiful hardwood floor. We cleaned it, we waxed it, and boom, it's done. Now
he can play like Tom Cruise in that one movie where he runs down the hall and slides 175 feet.
I'm waiting for him to do that, too. Because it's all nice and slick, and so he can really get a run at it.
How did you get hurt? Well, I was playing Tom Cruise.
I'm going to have to download that clip so he can see it. Risky business.
Yeah, guys on crutches hate hardwood floors.
Do I need to put in, scuff strips for you?
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. That's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Get that done.
Okay. Do we have a pledger?
We have Mr. Al on for the pledge and Michael Rogers on for the weather.
All right, very good. Al, good morning. The pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I just want to say, Al, thank you very, very much for something you probably didn't know that you did, okay?
Now what did I do?
You left the door alone at lunch bunch. That was very nice of you.
Well, I've been trying to cut down on the chaotic and the turbulence and everything I can, but it's been pretty hard.
Well, I just admire you for not putting your posterior into the warning door. Thank you so much.
At least Jack didn't push me this time.
Oh, Jack pushing you.
Yeah, good lunch, man.
All right, thanks, Al. God bless you, man.
Bye-bye.
Time for the weather. Here's Michael Rogers, weather.com. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Risky business, man. Do I remember that movie? Bob Seger, old-time rock and roll, and Tom Cruise is sliding in the living room. That brings back some memories. Where am I going with that? Our weather is risky business for this week. Morning, everybody. Going to look for some clouds and sun and just about everything but the kitchen sink for today. Won't see any precipitation. That'll start for tomorrow. But you'll start to see the clouds and sun. Winds are not going to be a problem today. Look for a high today of about 53, close to 55 tonight. Overnight low right around 31. Then when you wake up in the morning, you're going to call me and go like, what's up with this snow? And then it's going to change to rain. And then it's going to go back to snow. No accumulation possible. This typical spring weather when you get temperatures between the 30s and 40s. So look for a high tomorrow right around 49. It'll continue to tomorrow night. And then you'll come out of it with sun. But then the next couple of days, you're going to get windy as you work your way toward the weekend. And then right now the weekend is looking good. But for this risky business to start out the work week, enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Hey, Michael, real quick before you go, I want to remind you that tomorrow we're going to have a brand new sponsor to your weather, so bear with me as I give the leads tomorrow, okay?
You're kidding, really?
Yes, sir.
I want to thank that brand new sponsor, and I want to thank you and everybody for allowing me for 5 years to lie to you. Thank you.
All right, Michael. Thank you much. God bless. Have a good day. Thank you.
Take care. Bye now.
Yep, we got a brand new sponsor for Michael's Weather tomorrow, and we're looking forward to it. Hey, by the way, let's take care of some business here real quick. I want to remind you about SafeLink Internet. They are all over the state, and they are absolutely the best #1 choice for high-speed Internet in the state of Idaho. All you have to do is call them at 677-8000. That number again, 677-8000. And they've got a referral customer credit program to where if you refer a customer, you could receive money credited to your account. Hey, you'd better check it out today. I swear by these people. They've been so good to us. Idaho's #1 choice for high-speed Internet? Yep, SafeLink Internet, 677-8000. Somebody else that I'm extremely high on, and the job that they've done for us long before they came on the radio, and that was, of course, Daryl's Cleaners at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Man alive, every time I take my jeans, my Wranglers, and sports shirts, everything in there, they come back looking like, holy smokes, I didn't know I just bought these. Brand new. They do a super job. Where are they located? Thought you'd never ask. 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Daryl's Cleaners, absolutely the best. Final Four, and I'm going to get Gina on the phone here. Gina, did you make any picks for the Final Four?
No, is Tennessee still in it? Because
no.
And Gonzaga's out, so I'm done.
Well, I got to tell you, and if you listen and you go back on the tapes, as a matter of fact, I picked 2 that are in the Final Four, and one of which is Florida, and the other one is my old alma mater of Wisconsin.
Oh, Wisconsin's in
and
it, huh?
also Kentucky made it, and I absolutely was astounded at the 4th one that made it to the Final Four.
Was it Texas?
No, UConn.
UConn, man.
Yeah, I was shocked. They're playing their best basketball. They're absolutely whooping up on people. And so it's Kentucky, UConn, and Florida and Wisconsin. And I am picking, here we go, I'm baring my chest right now. Everybody poke fun at me. Yes, the drum roll. I am picking for the next Monday night championship. It'll be Wisconsin against Florida, and I'm not going to pick the winner yet.
You're not going to pick the winner?
You know, those 2 teams, Florida and Wisconsin, for collegiate basketball teams.
No, we're talking the Gators, right?
Yeah, we're talking so closely matched right now. They both got great center people. They've got excellent guards, and right now it's a flat up in the air coin flip to see who's going to win that. But they got to get there first. And I'm not discrediting Kentucky or UConn because they might be a fly in the milk.
I'm honestly going to have to say Kentucky and UConn. I think that they're going to take it. I think that they're going to go to the championship game.
Really?
That's going to be my prediction.
And that's for what? Steak dinners?
Sure.
All right, you're on. You're on. I'll take it.
Prime rib, here we come.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it all. It's on tape. There we go. Hey, by the way, I also want to say thank you very much to some really, really dear friends. And they were so wonderful to us the other day at Lunch Bunch, and that's Denny's Restaurant. Holy cow. How do you get better better than what they were. I mean, the service is absolutely out of sight. The food is delicious. I broke my diet, and I had something that was just tremendous. And anybody that's hungry, you better head into Denny's restaurant. They've got gift cards available, nice little gift cards. And don't forget, kids eat free on certain days. And by golly, I'll tell you what, this is just a great place. 611 Overland and Burley, Denny's restaurant. Thomas and the rest of the crew, Terry, they're all serving you, and serving is the key word. Denny's restaurant, 611 North Overland and Burley. I suggest that you stop in and see them today. Really nice people. By the way, too, and I want to get this in right now this morning, there is going to be a great big horse sale, and I mean huge, 5 days. 5 days of activities up at the Salmon Select Horse and Mule Sale at the Lemhi County Fairgrounds in Salmon. And you don't want to miss this. I mean, it starts on Wednesday with mule clinics on the 9th of April. Then on the 11th, I mean, they've got all kinds of mule calcuttas, wolf howling and everything. And then, of course, the mule sale on Friday the 12th, along with a lot of other activities. Saturday the 13th, they're getting ready for their big horse sale, and they got rope horse performance classes, trail horse competition. Sunday on the 14th, they've got a huge, absolutely huge team roping, so don't miss a minute of it. No, this is April 9th through the 13th. They made a misprint on this copy. Can you imagine that? Anyway, I want to remind everybody, be there. It's going to be a lot of fun up at the Lemhi County Fairgrounds in Salmon with our dear friend Fred Snook. Absolutely a happening up there. All right, calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to discuss with you folks this morning, I'm very upset, and most people in the livestock industry should be upset, because there are unknowledgeable, uneducated, and very defamatory statements being made by people that don't understand, do not understand the livestock business, and they're coming out and getting press and ink in the Times News and other publications about how much they know more so than the producers about how to take care of livestock. And I was really upset yesterday in the Sunday paper of the Times News because an Amber Halsell, a Twin Falls resident, proved how totally uneducated, and I'm just going to be very blunt, folks, that's the only way I know how to be. She's a very stupid lady for some of her incendiary remarks that she made in an op-ed page commentary, and I'm going to get into that in just a moment. First and foremost, we have a caller. Good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning. The United Nations is at it again. You know, they issued another report that climate change caused by greenhouse gases, meaning CO2, is going to destroy the planet here in a short order. Another report, you know. When are we going to wake up to the fact that the UN is out to, your Agenda 21 is out to control everything and everybody on the planet, folks?
Well, Adrian, I'm on another subject here this morning, but I will say this, and then I've got to go back to this. Number one, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. You don't have to be a plant pathologist. You don't have to be anybody involved in agriculture to really understand that what plants and CO2 all do for the human being and for the growth of crops, etc. And for these nimrods to sit there and tout going into a much colder climate, it's absolute complete absurdity to think that people are healthier in cold climates? No, they're not. Crops grow better in cold climates? No, they don't. People can flourish in colder climates? No, they won't. How much of a absolute destitute mind has to say that if we go to global cooling, it's going to be a benefit?
Well, obviously, we're going into global cooling, and the temperature hasn't gone up. It's actually gone down in the last 17 years.
That's right.
But this Fuentes gal for the UN, you know, she said we have to adopt a communist-style system. You know, she is a communist, and so, you know, that's going to be the solution. And, of course, those people always starve to death, and you get redistribute the too little. Everybody's in poverty. That's what they want for the whole world, so we can get this new world order under the United Nations.
I agree with you, and we're going to stay on top of that. And if you get a chance to call me later on, I'd like to get you scheduled for the program to talk about it more. Adrian, thank you for your call.
You bet.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Take a little break for a little commercial here, and then I want to talk more about this ag security bill, because I think our farmers, ranchers, everybody involved in agriculture deserves better treatment than what some of these silly, absolutely uneducated people are trying to say and do. And I'll talk more about that in a moment. By the way, if you didn't know, Ramsey Heating and Electric has incandescent light bulbs. Oh, well, wait a minute. You said the government wants to regulate against them. The heck with the government. Okay? Buy the incandescent light bulbs. They are not a thing of the past. They are right now available, and you can get them in 40, 60, 75, or 100-watt bulbs, clear or frosted. I bought a box. I stored up. I'm going to be using them for a long time and thumbing my nose at the government regulations, as we all should. And they've got them available over at Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. For everything you need electrical, it's all there at Ramsey Heating and Electric, where they provide, excuse me for choking, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Oh, by the way, too, Valley-Wide Home and Ranch, I want to remind you, they got Cornish chicks over there. They got the Cornish chicks. These are the chickens that are the meat birds, and they've got all the equipment that go with it, too, the feed, the water dishes, houses, fencing, anything you need for your chickens. Here a chick, there a chick, everywhere a chick. And also, it's not too early to be thinking about all the 4-H needs for your 4-H projects, and you'll receive a 10% discount on 4-H feed, haulers, show sticks, etc. if you stop over and see my friends, Steve, Mandy, the whole crew at Valley-Wide Home and Ranch. They've got everything for the farm, home, family at Valley-Wide Home and Ranch. You stop in and see them today. All right, let's get back over to this ag security bill right now. Some of the absolute imbecilic remarks that were made by Amber Halsell, and I hope she's listening this morning because I'm going to try to call her and invite her on the program. Quote, I was shocked and deeply disturbed that vicious cruelty and abuse of animals was so rampant in the Magic Valley. Rampant? Please don't go there. And then she goes on in her stories to say it lies with the fact that animal abuse is a very real problem in modern farming operations, one that will become far, far worse now that Idaho has enacted an ag-gag law. No, this is where I draw the line. It's an ag security bill. And here's the deal. I don't care if you're in the dairy business. I'm not touting the dairy business over anybody else, Bob Narabot or anybody else. They want to come on the program, they can call. They'll give the airtime right here on my show. I don't care if it's the horse business. I don't care if it's the pig business. I don't care if it's anything related to animal agriculture. Because ag security bill is a protection for private property rights and private property owners. You know, why would anybody with a sane mind, a farmer or rancher, let some fried brain kook with a video camera on your property to film how you do business? Why? Why would you allow anybody to come onto your property and, hi, I'm with Mercy for Animals, and allow them to come onto your property to film and try to trip you up and try to do anything they can to edit, document, or to change the alteration of the film so it would make you look like, in their case, a criminal? Why? First of all, this is a private property rights issue. And you're not going to turn your dairy or hog or horse operation into an open forum for unknowledgeable people to come in and scrutinize. And there's another factor in today's age. You don't know who these nimrods are, these absolute bigots of saying that they know more than anybody else, coming onto your property possibly with the spreading of disease. You have to be extremely careful of that. But the main thing that I'm against is private property rights would be totally eroded, and the self-incrimination would be skyrocketing by letting these absolute kooks onto your property. And you know why they're doing all this? I honestly maintain it's not anything for the animals. It's just exactly what Jack Euler and I were talking about a couple of weeks ago on this program. It's nothing more than a 5-letter word of money. These people use these videos. They doctor these videos. They send out all these, tear in my eye type mailers. Help protect the animals. For money. It's all for donations. It's all for the bottom line of including and increasing their purse strings with more money. And to people like this Amber Halsell, and on the inside yesterday, a letter to the editor, a Sarah Rosenblum from Kimberly that absolutely I would love to get her on the program because she's such a misguided bigot. Some of the comments that she made are absolutely off the wall, and I think it's time that agriculture in general stood up and fought back to these people that have the combined IQ of a bicycle spoke. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. You know, if this was your private property and they could come into your home and videotape it, it's just basically the same thing. It's ridiculous they're allowed to do that.
Well,
these guys are probably the worst people in the world to animals. They've probably done more to destroy animals than anybody. And, you know, to do this, to raise money, and to come out and do dishonest things, they take them tapes, they edit them, and show them how they want to show them. It's just a disgrace that this country would let anybody do that.
Well, there's a big push.
Watch them coming into my bedroom or my living room or my kitchen and taping to see if I keep my counters clean.
Yeah. It's just another infringement, Jerry, on private property rights, and it's an infringement on animal agriculture. They're not out for the betterment of the animals. They're out for a complete closure of animal agriculture in this country. I don't trust them any further than I could throw a Volkswagen out of my front yard. I have no use for these people.
I lived on a dairy most of my life when I was a young man. I milked cows every day. And them cows were a lot of money to us. If we lost one, it really hurt us. You take the best care you can of them. You give them the best food. You keep their barn clean. You do everything you can to make it where they have a happy life.
And for the betterment of production. Jerry, here's one of the incendiary, stupid statements that this young lady, Sarah Rosenbaum, wrote in a letter to the editor yesterday. She said, quote, "If fear of a camera in the hands of volunteers on their own dime keeps it on the high alert, we need more of them. You set 1 foot on my property, and I guarantee you will be bounced like a Spalding basketball out into the middle of the road. Every person in agriculture should absolutely demand that private property rights are honored, and there shouldn't be any more of this garbage from these so-called animal rights activists that are nothing more than paid haters of agriculture."
Well, it's just ridiculous that they're able to do that. Nobody should have the right to take pictures of your property or anything you or I or any other listener out there owns. They don't have that right. And to meddle in the inner parts of your business, they have no business there. Most your businesses can't even check as close as they do to make sure their people are honest with them.
Yeah, that's the whole thing, the scrutiny and the honesty. Jerry, I got to run. I got a hard break at the bottom of the hour, but thank you so much for your call. I agree with you. Thank you so much.
You bet.
All right.
You have a wonderful day, and may the Lord bless.
And can you imagine the total ambiguity and it's such a farce to listen to these people like this Sarah Rosenbaum, that is a self-proclaimed expert, along with this other one that wrote a letter in the op-ed page, this Amber, what was her name, Halsell? I mean, to think that the livestock industry has to listen to the likes of these very unknowledgeable bigots? Travel Lube Supply, 1050 West, 203 south of Hayburn. They've got bolts and will travel. You better believe it, metric and standard bolts, and they've got all the bins, and believe me, I keep mentioning this, but there's still a lot of people that are probably behind on their repairs. That wind we had before, the wheel lines really took a tumble and tied up like spaghetti. They've got all the levelers, the birdies, the bolts, they've got everything, Travel Lube Supply. And by the way, Jim mentioned to you that he's got some excellent pine trees over there that are for sale, $50 per tree, and some are even 12-foot high for replanting, so that these are beautiful for your yards, etc. Give them a call, 438-8730. Travel Lube Supply, they deliver the goods. It's time for the Capital Press Ag Minute, and the Capital Press Ag Minute is brought to you by Lennox Home Comfort Systems. Whether it's an air conditioner or heat pump, you and your family will enjoy the comfort through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Here now, the Capital Press Ag Minute.
Today's Ag Minute brought to you by the Capital Press, the West Ag Weekly.
An extended closure of a navigation lock on the Snake River has created a logjam for grain traffic. The Little Goose Lock near Starbuck, Washington, will remain closed to all river traffic while workers replace key gate components, according to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. In June 2013, engineers first detected a small crack that appeared to be forming on the metal arm at the top of the south gate. They determined the gate could continue to be used with increased monitoring. However, cracks continued to spread. The lock had been closed for annual maintenance and was slated to reopen March 22nd. Corps planners now estimate it will return to service by May 1st. The outage has backed up river traffic, including grain barges headed for export facilities downstream. This is Hannah Browse.
For more agriculture news and information, turn to the West's Ag Weekly, the Capital Press, and capitalpress.com.
Oh, thank you very much. And again, our thanks to Lennox Home Comfort Systems at Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Thank you for sponsoring the Capital Press Ag Minute. Calls are welcome and appreciated. And private property rights is just something that nobody seems to care about anymore. And for any operation, again, I don't care what type of animal operation it is, but to just basically say, oh, come on in and do whatever you want on our property, and then turn around and edit those and try to come against that's asinine, and it's absolute insanity. These people, I would never, ever, if I'm having a rope in here, and this happened, I've mentioned this story once before. This happened about 4 or 5 years ago. There was a carload of ladies that were with an animal rights organization from out of the Wood River Valley. And they were going around and they were checking calf hutches, and they were checking people that raise baby calves and everything, and filming. And we were out roping. I had some friends over here, and we were out roping, and they stopped in my driveway on my private property, and they were filming. And I went over to the fence, and I asked this one lady, I said, what are you doing here? Well, we're just filming this to see if there's any animal abuse. And I said, you've got 5 seconds now from the starting point to get off my property, or I said, I'll start taking that car apart piece by piece, rope onto the bumper, and see what we can pull off. I will not allow anybody to do that on my property, nor should anyone else. Don't forget, great big sale coming up, the Mini-Cash Annual Community Auction. It's going to be at the Carnival Grounds at the Cassia County Fairgrounds, and that's Saturday, April 5th, coming up next weekend. Lunch is available. Guess who's putting the sale on? You better believe it. Bill Estes and Associates. It's going to be ripping good. I've known Bill for a long time, and this man puts on a great auction. Bill Estes and Associates Auctioneers. For more information, call 654-2546, and he's going to have boats and RVs and trailers and farm equipment and all kinds of household items, yard and lawn equipment, and riding lawnmowers, collectible farm items, and they're going to have shop equipment. All of this at the Mini-Cash Annual Community Auction this next Saturday, April 5th. Starting time, 9 o'clock. Bill Estes and Associates Auctioneers. Going to be a good one. All right, give us a call. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Maybe that kind of thing doesn't bother you. Maybe you think, oh, well, we just got to go along to get along. And then maybe you might say something as frivolous as, well, if you don't have anything to hide, why are you worried about it? There's a bunch of reasons about that. Number one, I don't want anybody I don't know on my property. Number two, if it's a property where you have to worry about, with agriculture, about diseases being tramped in, or somebody might try to plant something, you don't know. No, private property is private property, and I adhere to the fact that no trespassing. This is an animal raising facility, etc., a breed farm, whatever. Nobody sets foot on the property. Nobody. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Penetron Soil Conditioner by Maisie has a 20-year proven record of increasing yield and quality of all Idaho crops with 30 interactive components, speeding germination, reducing crusting, improving stand, stimulating root growth, and microbial activity, and building soil structure too. And it uses less water. That alone will pay for the cost of the product. That's right. And you can increase your crop's performance with a proven soil conditioner. It's been around a long time and does a great job. Penetron by Maisie. Contact your fertilizer dealer, crop advisor today about Penetron by Maisie. I didn't know that Juan Williams' son, this really was a shocker to me, Juan Williams' son, you know Juan Williams, commentator, a liberal commentator, and basically a supporter of Barack Hussein Obama and his policies. His son, Rafi, is a very, very dedicated conservative. Woo-hoo! I'll bet you there's interesting conversations around the Easter dinner table this year. Well, anyway, this young man is extremely articulate, and I got to give Juan Williams credit. I very seldom ever give him credit, but I'm going to give him credit on this situation, that he and his son appeared on television the other day. And his son has been absolutely under attack by the left and by blacks because he didn't follow the mantra of what supposedly he should have followed. Because he's a conservative, he's a millennial that believes young children or young kids today need to take advantage and responsibility of their actions and take advantage of some of the great things that are afforded to them. He said we all should have personal responsibility. This kid's sharp. Well, the blacks have come up and said, how dare he? You're supposed to be a liberal leftist. But his dad, I give him credit, stood up for him and said he has his own mind. He's a very sharp young man, and I'm very proud of him. And good for Rafi Williams, a conservative, son of Juan Williams. Oh, speaking of which, and I am not a big fan of Kobe Bryant. You know Kobe Bryant, point guard for the Los Angeles Lakers. But all of a sudden here in the last couple of days, my opinion and my respect for Kobe has gone up. And I'll tell you why. It's over a situation with the Trayvon Martin case. Yeah. Blacks have tried to, like Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and others, have tried to paint Kobe Bryant into a corner. And he said no. He said, I look at the situation where there's a shooting, where there's trouble, and you have to look at the situation and understand what the facts are and not just go based on race. Those are just kind of generalized statements as to what he said. Well, the blacks, like Sharpton and Jackson and the others, have come out and they're trying to crucify this guy because he didn't stand up for the black mantra. So congratulations to Kobe Bryant. I appreciate that. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, Ev, I've been studying, utopianism, Marxism, communism for years in the history of the world, and as I study this, I realize that Karl Marx was an aimless person who was a terrible, filthy, lazy person, and all he really wanted to do was figure out a way to not work, and he never had a profession, and he was a filthy man. I mean, him and his wife lived in filth their entire lives. And but he was also an aimless person who lived off of whoever he could, whether or not it was the state or whether or not it was friends. And the similarities of Karl Marx and Barack Obama are shocking, to say the least, because Obama just went from here to there and whatever the case may be, and he was, because he was a minority, he was, his funding through school and college was paid for by whatever the funding was. Ultimately, it was us. And he has never held a job in his life, and neither did Karl Marx. And it's truly amazing, the similarities.
Well,
one of the things about the Communist Manifesto is this, that they have the right, if there is private property, and it's very minute amounts of it, that they would have the right to enter your property at any time, unannounced, and do whatever they feel is necessary.
Well, Randy,
exactly what these people are trying to do to the farmers and ranchers in Idaho.
Absolutely. And Randy, you grew up in agriculture, and correct me if I'm wrong, didn't you grow up on a farm?
Yeah, we had a dairy, a farm, and a feedlot.
Okay, so you're standing outside your dairy barn some nice April morning, and all of a sudden cars pull onto the property, and they say, we're here, we're going to film your operation, etc., and what are you going to do about it? Basically, I know that's kind of a rough summation, but they'll ask for permission, but you know what? The minute you say no, you're going to almost incriminate yourself, because these people, all they want to do is have the recognition on tape that perhaps you've done something wrong, or perhaps they can come after you, perhaps they can shut you down. These people are vegans that don't want any animal agriculture or use whatsoever. Why would anybody in their right mind want to be copacetic and helpful to these people? They should be thrown off the property on their ears.
Well, first of all, the sheriff, your county sheriff should advise you that trespassing is illegal, and they have, a short time to remove themselves from the premises if you so desire. And secondly, these vegans, they never in the history of any kind of monarchy or socialist communist state has there ever been abundance. There's always starvation. See, these people, in their idealistic drive, literally would starve. Of course, their intent is to starve you and I, and they'll be the ruling elite. And, that is always the intent.
Absolutely. Randy, I appreciate your calling this morning, buddy. I got another call waiting. Thank you, sir. Caller, I'm going to ask your indulgence and patience. Just a minute. Hold on. Don't go away. Hey, by the way, Vicky's Country Garden is coming back on the program. And don't forget, she says, spring is coming. That's right. And be sure to be listening for Gardening for Idiots. Me. They named it after me. Thursdays, 10:21 to 10:29, right here on Zebeth Ranch. Call in with any questions you might have for the gardening expert, Vicky at Vicky's Country Gardens, and she'll tell you all about what you need to be doing right now. Vicky's Country Gardens, 185 South, 600 West of Paul. You stop in and see them today. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
I think some of our major problems we're having now about what you're talking about today are being taught in schools. Socialism, one-worldism. I'd really like to know somebody out there come on your program and tell us what's being changed in our textbooks and what exactly is being taught to our children, because you get millions and millions of these young people that are being turned out of school as socialists and everything. This country won't stand a chance.
No, that's right. And right now, it's time to go on the offense. So I'll give you a little example here, Tony. Let's just use the horses because I'm closer to that operation than anything else. In training of horses, you want to make sure that it's a safety factor. When you're talking about a rather large farm animal, a horse that could be anywhere from 1,100 to 1,300 pounds, and you're using it as a riding horse maybe for your 4-H'er, your daughter, your son, or yourself. And it's a policy that if a horse and rider and you have a problem, you punish is the word I'm looking for right now, the horse, if there's an action that might be dangerous. In other words, a horse starts to buck or rear up, you want to correct that so that it doesn't happen again with any means that are helpful to make sure that animal understands. They don't do that. Well, you take people that are on your property and filming, I don't care if it's the use of spurs, I don't care what the case might be, they could turn that against you and shut your operation down. And that's where these unknowledgeable, stupid bigots that represent themselves as animal rights activists, I think they all should be locked up on a desert island someplace.
Oh, yeah, they ought to stand out attention where the police departments are training their dogs for drugs and fight and all that stuff. They'd really have something to write about. But unless you do that, you're not going to have a very good dog.
That's right. I just don't want to ever cave in to these people's demands that they know more about animal agriculture than the actual raiser and producer. They have the combined IQ of complete negativity, and I will never, ever cave. I've been in the rodeo business for over 40 years. I know the rodeo business inside and out, and I know how absolutely disdainful and distrustful these people are.
Well, they're just being used by these people that want to turn us into a one-world government, and they don't realize it yet.
I agree with you. Tony, God bless you and Mary. Hope everything's well.
It is.
All right, my friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zed.
You bet. Hey, don't forget again, qualified Lennox home comfort systems. Yeah, make yourself comfortable in your home. Gas furnaces, air conditioners, heat pumps, all of this through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric. They can save you money. Call them 678-0459. At Ramsey's, they provide warm winters and cool summers, as they have for over about 40 some odd years. Really working great with Lennox home comfort systems. Bit my tongue. Time for the weather real quick with MichaelRogersWeather.com, and it's brought to you this hour by Butte Irrigation, 116 South, 600 West of Paul, and another location at just a little bit north of Kimberly on Kimberly Road, Red Cap Corner. They'll get you wet. They've got all the wheel lines, hand lines, main lines, pivots, and pumps, and all the knowledgeable people. Butte Irrigation. Here's Michael Rogers Weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. Cloudy. Still got some showers hanging around. Still got some cool temperatures hanging around. Cloud today, some sun. Look for a high today, right around 55, 53. Winds are not going to be a problem today out of the south, 5 miles an hour. More of the same for this evening, 31 for the overnight low. Tomorrow we're going to start out with a possibility of rain and snow showers, and then it will turn over to rain later on during the afternoon. Could see some thunderstorms, too. Possible. Springtime, 49 for the high. Tomorrow, winds are going to kick up out of the east-northeast at about 15 to 25 miles an hour. That is your weather. Enjoy the day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. Brought to you this hour by Butte Irrigation in Paul and Kimberly. They will get you wet. You know, you don't have to be a rocket scientist at all to understand that healthy animals are the best productive animals. And the best producing and productive animals are the ones that make the producer money. So it's always an advantage. I don't care what the operation, or even like the rodeo business, whatever, to keep, maintain, and always adhere to healthy animals. We don't need somebody standing over our shoulder with a video camera telling us how to do our business. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
I'm back.
Well, I'm glad. I'm sorry you left, but it's good to have you back. What can I do for you?
But you didn't miss me, did you?
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah. Hey, on the news here lately, this mudslide that happened up in Washington.
Yes.
You know, and it's cost about 18 or 19 people's lives so far. Are you abreast of that?
Well, no, wait a minute. Let's stop. There's been horrific updates on that, Keith. There are estimates now, and final counts haven't come in yet, but now they've verified 30 deaths, and there's still a whole bunch of people missing in this horrendous mudslide, to which I don't understand how this happened. I don't understand how all of a sudden, at the snap of a finger or the wink of an eye, it engulfed so much property and did so much damage and killed so many people. It must be a horrendous situation.
It is, but the point I'm trying to make here is the fact that these people were warned and warned and warned that this could happen.
Well, we've seen that happen.
I see back in the biblical times when they used to, our prophets back then used to tell us we need to do this, we need to, like the famine, remember, 7 years? You know, people say, well, why didn't somebody tell me? And I think that's exactly what happened here.
Well, okay.
They weren't listening.
I agree with you, Keith. Yeah, a lot of people didn't listen. A lot of people didn't heed warnings from years ago about the potentiality of having a mudslide. But that's really after the fact. Right now, my heart and my thoughts and prayers are with the people that have lost people that absolutely are missing and, quite frankly, might be buried underneath 10, 12, 15 feet of mud forever in eternity. And it's such a horrific happening. All I can say is I'm sorry it happened, and I feel nothing but anguish and sorrow for the families.
I do too, but the point I was trying to make, there's people who are trying to start lawsuits and everything else right now.
Yeah.
Because nobody told us about this, and even in modern times here, we're told to prepare ourselves for these kind of things, and we don't listen.
Well, you know, Keith, and I guess maybe I'm on your side on this as far as the blame, and I hate to blame anybody, especially when the investigation and the search is still going on for possible victims that can be saved. But you got to admit, I mean, if you all of a sudden said, I'm going to build a house right underneath the shadow of a possible active volcano, you'd have to look at the guy and say, you've got to be about 5 boxes of apples off plum, because you don't want to do that. If it's a possible active volcano, why would you want to build a house right underneath it? Well, the same is true for a lot of these people in various stages of whether it's a mudslide or whether it's maybe even in a high-centered area for earthquakes. You just don't want to build there. Heed the warnings and go build someplace else.
What about like in California, in the Los Angeles area especially, where their house was wiped out by a mudslide, and they said, I'm coming back.
Yeah, yeah, or...
It's, we don't believe these feeds that they're giving us, but...
Yeah, well, look at the East Coast, all right? Look at the South and the East Coast. People that had all those homes right smack dab on the ocean, and many of which were built up on stilts. I'm supposed to feel sorry for them if all of a sudden there's 25-foot waves and the waves wipe out their new television set? That's not my fault because they built on the water.
That's right, and that's what my point was, that these people were warned and forewarned, and and it was well known, but some people say they cheated us. They didn't tell us this was going to happen.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, anybody that can look into a crystal ball and say what's going to happen in the future, those are the kind of people you want to run from. Keith, God bless. Good to hear from you again. Have a good day.
You bet.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Caller number 2, I'll be right there. Don't forget, I want to talk about Eli. Eli's a-coming. You better believe it, along with Nick and Rosie and everybody else. At Barry Equipment and Rental, they've got 3 locations. Twin Falls on Addison. They've got over on South Lincoln and Jerome, and an excellent location at 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. I went by there the other day, and loaders, holy smokes, look at the loaders. Look at the Coyote tractors. Look at everything you need to either buy and or rent to get the job done. They got all the Walker mowers too. There's no excuse whatsoever. You just get a hold of these folks today. They're asking for the opportunity to earn your business with Barry Equipment and Rental. Yes, sirree, Bob. In Twin Falls and Jerome and Burley, Barry Equipment and Rental. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, Zeb, I can't hardly hear you.
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm with you all the way on this Sarah Rosenbaum's. But there's another article in the paper I want to comment on.
Okay.
Letter to the editor.
All right.
And that is Bedke Plays Politics. This article on this bill that was put in by Senator Russ Fulcher on relieving people with the food tax. It had 30 sponsors. Mm-hmm. And it would have helped anybody that went into the grocery store. And yet Bedke shelved it. And here you got 2 people running for governor, and you can't tell me that wasn't playing politics.
Well, now I would be amiss because I did not read the letter.
Well, I can't hear you. Just a minute.
Okay, I'm just going to say this real quick, Fred, because I'm almost out of time. I haven't read the letter to the editor in regards to what you're talking about. I will read it. I will study it. And I'll tell you what I'll even do. I'll even get Scott on the air, and we'll talk about it, and we'll find out why. How's that?
That'll be a good one.
All right. Hey, man, I appreciate it. How you feeling this morning?
Oh, great.
All right, now
I feel good. How about you?
Oh, just healing up, I guess. We'll both limp down the aisle together.
Well, I hope you're doing as good as I am. I know you're not. I know you're having trouble with that sciatic nerve.
Well,
that leg still.
Well, I appreciate it, but I'll call Scott and I'll find out and get him on the air. How's that?
Okay,
all right.
Whatever. But that bill had 30 sponsors. And still he shelved it.
Okay, I will.
Two guys are running against each other for governor.
Yep. I will find out about it. We'll get to the bottom of it, and we'll ask questions, and I'll take care of it after I'm off the air today. Fred, thank you very much.
Winner.
All right, sir.
Thanks.
God bless you, man. Thanks.
You bet.
We'll find out. The best thing to do is just call and ask, and I'm writing it down right now. Call Scott Bedke, ask about the grocery bill. I will do that, and we'll get it on the air. Real quick, before I take some more of your calls, I want to remind you about the big spring tire sale going on at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. You know, they've got every tire on sale, and all the tread designs, everything else. So what are you waiting for? Travel time's around the corner. And you want to make sure and get in with your car, your SUV, your pickup trucks, horse trailers, boat trailers, whatever, and put new tires on, good tires. You don't want to be on the side of the road changing tires. You don't want those old bald tires causing you trouble. Well, get in there now when the prices are low at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Big tire sale. On sale the batteries and the shocks and struts, the front end alignments. Oh, the best in brake service. Absolutely. You stop in and see Lane and Rupert, Dave, on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. I got time for another call if you want to give it to me. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. By the way, who is telling the truth? Really, when you think about it, who's telling the truth? Our President Obama last week met with the Pope in the Vatican, and after that meeting was over, Obama came out, and for the benefit of all the American reporters, etc., and the newscasters, etc., he said one thing that had been discussed and how the format went and everything. Well, minutes afterwards, the Vatican came out and said just the opposite. Then the same thing happened with Putin and Russia. Obama comes out and says one way, and Russia and Putin come out and say, well, whoa, that's not exactly what happened. So who do you trust? And you know, this sounds really bad, but I'm almost to the point where anything and everything that comes out of this administration's mouth, because of what they've done 37 times to change Obamacare to suit themselves and literally break the law, I don't have very much faith in the honesty and integrity of President Obama. Maybe you do, I don't. Today, of course, the final day for sign-up, and they've changed everything and altered everything, like I said, 37 times to benefit themselves, and they claim that they've got 6 million people already signed up. But wait a minute. When asked how many of those 6 million people have paid a premium, they don't know. I've got to take a little break. We're going to be back with Frosty Woolridge next half hour. Don't go away, Zeb at the Ranch. Thank you. See you in 6. Wow. It's been kind of a funny couple of days. I mean, man alive, we had snow, and then we'd have rain, and then we'd have lots and lots of wind, everything would dry out, and then more snow, more rain, etc., etc. Good morning, everybody. Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some great advertisers, too, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more at 459 Overland in Burley, and our friends at Western Way Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Way Services, we care about our community, our resources, and represent. Western Way Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Way Services.
They are always always at your disposal, and I'll tell you what, we're very blessed to have them on our program, telling about their great route service to pick your garbage up. It's gone. It's out of there. I've been on that route service for years. Absolutely the best. And, of course, they've got all the dumpsters in various sizes. If you're cleaning something out, man, just call them. They'll drop a dumpster off. And don't forget, too, they now have the Go Minis, portable storage units for contractors, real estate agents, everybody for storage. These are really, really neat. You can store it at your site or their site, and all you have to do is call them at 734-6969. Western Waste Services, always, absolutely always at your disposal. One thing, too, I want to remind everybody is we are so blessed on this program with nice people to talk about, and that also includes Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. Joel Heward, and he's the owner-manager. They've been a big, big helpful part of our lunch bunch that we have once a month, helping to buy some of the door prizes. We appreciate that so much. Thank you. And they, during the funeral, they know that when there's a passing of a loved one, that absolutely they want to provide the families they serve with the best possible support and comfort, always with the highest ethical standards, with unquestioned integrity. Please give them a call, and they can help you with information that we all should have. 436-5636, Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Really nice people. Well, when you say really nice people, that leads us up to this gentleman in Golden, Colorado, and I'm not going to mince any words this morning because he's one of my favorite people to have on the air, and he is as upset and virtually teed off about what this government is and isn't doing about protecting our borders and protecting us from illegal aliens coming in, and that's my dear friend Frosty Woldridge. Good morning, Frosty.
Well, good morning, Zeb, and I read the entire piece that you had suggested on Neil Monroe from the Daily Caller, who was a White House correspondent. And probably I would really direct everyone listening today to this commentary by a very fastidious and astute White House correspondent, Neil Monroe, because this is one of the best pieces I've seen, and it's also one of the most in-depth, because it really digs into what you and I have been talking about for the last 10 years. And again, he now gets in and crosses over the line. It's not only just illegal immigration, but it's legal immigration. And here's what he wrote in one of the paragraphs that I thought was so fantastic, and I'm quoting Neil Monroe. That's M-U-N-R-O, Monroe at thedailycaller.com. The Senate rewrite passed with unanimous support from Democratic senators, even though it would ensure roughly 40 million foreigners to get work permits during the next decade, when 40 million Americans turn 18. The 40 million foreigners would include at least 11 million former illegals, and that, of course, we know would be around 20 million, and roughly 20 million new legal immigrants, more than 10 million guest workers. Roughly 20 million Americans are now unemployed and or stuck in a part-time job at minimum wage. That paragraph, ladies and gentlemen, shows you exactly what the Senate did to your kids and you with the passage of 744, and if that thing gets passed in the House, we are literally being completely rendered a new poverty class in our own country. Our kids won't get to be able to get jobs at any kind of a decent living wage, and the rest of us are going to be in penury. I can't thank you enough for getting me turned on to that particular piece by Neil Monroe, Zeb.
Well, I tell you what, the man's a friend of mine, and I thought the article was absolutely outstanding. But here's in the article, and I know you read this, but here's the dilemma right now for the Republicans and basically the GOP in general. And Neil spelled this out. If the GOP finally blocks the president's immigration plan, Obama will step in and protect low-priority, undocumented immigrants with relief from deportation and work permits, and the Republicans will be held accountable because they're anti Asian or anti-Latino. I kind of surmised it a little bit. But he's right. He's absolutely right. And here's what's happening this morning. I know you've read this. Another article posted by Carolyn May and Obama's administration last year, and I know you're aware of this, released over 68,000 convicted criminal illegal aliens. They let them go. That's exactly what Neil Monroe said would happen in his piece.
And that's exactly what is happening. I want everyone to understand that the rule of law is now being replaced by the rule of a man. And that man is sitting in the White House, and he is not enforcing the laws of the land. He is cherry-picking everything according to his own political paradigm, and that paradigm literally is usurping the Constitution of the United States. This man, if anybody had a pair of cojones there in the Senate, this man would go up for impeachment, because he's breaking so many of the constitutional mandates that we the people have voted for and were brought into fruition through this constitutional republic. When the history books are written, Barack Hussein Obama will really go down as a blackguard. I mean, because he is so completely above the law, and he is running amok, and no longer the rule of law, but the rule of a man right now.
What do we do? You know, you and I have been on this radio program for years talking about this problem. You have espoused it in your book. You've espoused it in your writings that you put out every week. And people like Neil Monroe are jumping in right now. And we sit here and we listen to this man, Obama, and his administration lie to us. I'm going to use those words because that's what it is. And then Obama will pick up the scepter of injustice as if he was some kind of a Solomon, and he is going to change the law. I don't care if we're talking about Obamacare. I don't care if we're talking about immigration. He is going to change the law. What good are senators and congressmen if he's going to supersede the law?
Well, and that's our conundrum, ladies and gentlemen. We keep voting in incumbents at the rate of 96% of all incumbents get reelected, and about the only way they don't get reelected is like when Teddy Kennedy died, or William Byrd died from West Virginia. That's about and John McCain. The only way he's going to get thrown out is when he finally dies in office. And that's why I have really pressed for years for term limits, a maximum of 12 years. That will give people enough experience to run the country, but also keep getting new, fresh minds into the Senate and into the House. Because when you got old men like Schumer, Carl Levin, Boxer, Feinstein, John McCain, Kyle, all these old people, they are not working with the times. They're part of the good old boy network of corruption. And I've said it before. Power corrupts, but long-term power corrupts absolutely, and that's what we're facing. And that's what's happening to us. And so it's really up to us, the American people, to vote these people out of office.
You know, there was, and I know you read this very carefully, but there was in the third paragraph of this story something very chilling to me, and I want to read it and give it back to you and have a commentary. Quote, "We not only have to stop the needless destruction of families with current deportations, but need to heal families that have been caught up in the almost 2 million deportations we have seen in recent years," said Representative Luis Gutierrez shortly after Obama's new Homeland Security chief came to his office for a meeting. Here we have a representative representing the United States of America. Here we have a representative that's more in favor of supporting the illegals and undocumented people coming into this country. Frosty, what good is he as a representative of taxpayers?
I wrote about this years ago, and I just read the same quote along with you because I've got it right here in front of me. Luis Gutierrez, up there in Illinois, is more Mexican. In fact, he is Mexican. He is a Mexican advocate. He would literally open the borders to all Mexicans if he had the power right now by executive order, because he does not care about the Constitution. And here Baca out in California and right on down the line, These are Mexicans who have gained the power going into the House. And it's just like that one Muslim or two Muslims that are now into the House of Representatives. You better believe that they're going to vote for more things that are Muslim. And Sharia law, because that's what Muslims do. Ladies and gentlemen, we're being so multiculturalized, and we're allowing our country to be so completely, literally, polyglotted, that every group is going to fight for everything it can. And so you've got Luis Gutierrez, he broken families. No, if you want to not have a broken family, go back to Mexico and get your family together in Mexico, because that's where you belong. That's your country. Stay there until you fix your own country, and let us fix our country by having laws enforced. And you wouldn't have this problem of broken families. Gutierrez just talks about emotionality, not about reality. But the fact is, again, we're having more and more of those from foreign lands become into the political process, and they are undermining we the people, and we Americans, and all of us that are not hyphenated Americans are really getting hyphenated out of our own country.
I get really upset when I, as a taxpayer, become burdened with people that A, are not here legally, B, have let other people in illegally, and C, our own government wants to make sure that there are not any more turmoil, so they say to their relatives, oh, come on in, we'll support you, and also possibly will be enacted underneath Obamacare for a health care plan. I'm sitting here going, wait a minute, why do I pay my taxes? Why do I support my government? Why do I let the government run roughshod over me and tell me what I can do, what I can't do, etc., 24/7. This is ridiculous. There's more protection for illegal aliens in this country, my country, than there is for me.
Well, as a matter of fact, and ironically, an illegal alien last week who had been stopped 3 times for DUIs and had no license, his name was Gutierrez. He killed a Spanish person, a Hispanic, here in Denver, Colorado, because he was 3 times over the limit drunk, which he had been drunk and intoxicated for the last 10 years now. He's been in this country. He overstayed his visa. His name is not Lewis, but it's Gutierrez, his last name. He killed another Hispanic, ran smack dab at him through an intersection. And then the Denver Post, which advocates for illegals and has for the last 25 years, and that's Vince Carroll and Dean Singleton and Barbara Ellis, all of them, and even the TV shows were shocked that this Gutierrez guy had been in the country illegally for 10 years and had gotten stopped for 3 DUIs with no license. And they never put any kind of a hold on him from ICE, and he remained in country because he was above the law, because Denver and Colorado is a sanctuary city and a sanctuary state because of the Democratic Hancock, who's the mayor of Denver, and also Hickenlooper, who's the governor of the state. So again, we don't have a law anymore, and we have no law enforcement, and of course there's there's dozens of people who've been killed by illegals, hundreds, thousands who've been killed by illegals, but even our own elected officials still won't enforce the law and get rid of these people and get them out of our country.
Okay, now help me on this, Frosty. Maybe I'm being vague. In my mind, at 66 years of age, isn't operating efficiently. But Immigration's Customs Enforcement currently reports that there are more than 870,000 aliens on its docket who have been ordered removed from this country, but who remain in defiance of the law. In defiance of the law. If you, Frosty Woolridge, and me, Zeb Bell, get a parking ticket and we don't pay, they're going to come and throw us in jail. But these people are in defiance of our laws, and they're here illegally, and nobody's doing anything about it.
That's correct, and I think that number is a little bit short. It's much over that. It's way over that because these people have never showed up to the courts. They simply melted into the system, and the United States today is now the second largest underground economy in the world. Second largest underground economy, ladies and gentlemen, because those illegals are working by cash only and off the books. And they are making, again, they send about $80 billion a year to their home countries, well over $25 billion down to Mexico alone. So you have to understand there's huge money payoffs into the Senate and into the House of Representatives. Why do you think the war on drugs has gone on since 1971? Because there's a whole bunch of people up there in the House and the Senate who are making a lot of money on that. And they're making a lot of money with the payoffs like Tyson Chicken. Do you not think that Tyson Chicken or McDonald's aren't paying off some lobbyists to make sure that their slave labor is not getting paid for? And again, ladies and gentlemen, the only way you can fight this is empower organizations such as capsweb.org, CAPSWEB.org, and numbersusa.org, and of course FAIR, FAIRUS.org. Those are the organizations that are going to work for you. Otherwise, we're going to have more and more of this as our country gets completely watered down and totally hyphenated Americans and no longer any kind of ability to adjudicate or enforce the laws because people like Luis Gutierrez, a representative for the House of the House of Representatives, is a member of the Mexican House of Representatives, and he will represent Mexicans and lawbreakers more than he will represent the Constitution. That's the way it's going.
You know, when I sit here and I think about this, Frosty, you and I are talking on the radio.
You're sick, don't you?
Oh, I'm more than sick. I've got a bad German temper. But when you sit here and think about Gutierrez, a representative of we the people, the United States citizenry of the United States, and you think about all the under-the-table things that this government and this administration is doing, releasing 68,000 convicted criminal aliens and putting them back into society. Putting them back into society, our society. You've got to wonder when and where it's all going to end because, my goodness sakes, right has got to prevail or we're all going to be living in a cesspool.
Well, and we are starting to live in a cesspool. I mean, if you look at Chicago, if you look at the Mexican gangs, if you look at the black gangs, if you look at the knockout games, if you look at the black flash mobs, people, I know most folks in Idaho and the Northwest are not seeing all of this in their own cities, but you will see more and more of it. Again, corruption is a mechanism by which third world countries operate. And when you bring all of these people in from third world countries, that corruption, that lack of law and order, you ought to go to Mexico, you ought to go to Lima, Peru, you ought to go to all these third world countries. Nobody, go to India, nobody ever stops for a stoplight. There is no order, there's only chaos. It's absolutely incredible. They think on a different wave level, on a totally different understanding. And so as they come more and more into our country, and I've written about it, ladies and gentlemen, they simply cannot change their orientation, so they then degrade our laws, degrade our mores, and degrade our culture. And that is exactly what's happening. And that's, you and I, when history books are told, they'll talk about these two guys that were talking about exactly what's happening in the United States as it degrades down to a third world country. Zeb, we're on the money, and yet most Americans won't do anything because it's not affecting them yet. And when it gets too big and too much, it will affect everybody, but there won't be anything we can do about it because we have already swallowed the beast within ourselves, and that's exactly what's happening to us with a guy like Representative Luis Gutierrez there in Chicago.
Yeah, but it even goes to the top floor. It goes right to the Oval Office.
To the top floor.
Absolutely.
It's already at the top floor. It's in the White House, for heaven's sake.
Absolutely. Okay, I got to end on somewhat of a positive note. Baseball season.
Positive about the U of M and the Michigan State Spartans losing, darn it.
Well, it's funny you should mention that because that's where I was headed. Both Michigan and Michigan State were defeated, and the Final Four is going to be Kentucky, UConn, Florida, and Wisconsin. I'm willing to bet you another. I know you want one of these really bad. add another steak knife from Zeb at the Ranch. I'm willing to bet that the final two will be Florida and Wisconsin will pull the upset and win the NCAA.
You know, I actually, because Sandy took off this weekend, she wanted to visit her parents. I got to watch those games, and man, oh man, Wisconsin was fantastic. It was fantastic. I tell you what, because I'm a Big Ten man myself, I'm cheering for Wisconsin all the way on this, and it's going to be exciting. Boy, that Louisville game on Friday just blew me away. Those kids are so fast. It is extraordinary. So, yeah, I'm excited about Wisconsin's chances here in the Final Four, and it's going to be a whale of a finish.
All right. God bless you, my dear friend. Thank you, Frosty. I appreciate everything you do. I'll look forward to next Monday. Thank you very much.
Well, and thank you so much, Zeb, and God bless all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, please get out there and let's replace the people that are not supporting the Constitution and our way of life, our language and our culture. Otherwise, we're not going to have any of that in the coming years, and thank you for being so straight up and down, Zeb.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. My dear friend in Golden, Colorado, Frosty Woolridge. Thank you. Hey, when you think about life insurance, you should think about Cameron and Siemens. When you think about health insurance, retirement planning, you should think about Cameron and Siemens, employee benefits, all of this. I mean, hey, you better make sure you're protected. You better make sure everything is all put together for you and your business and your home. Well, check it out. Give them a call, 436-4424, the number to call. Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Dean Cameron, Todd Siemens, dedicated and responsive professionals serving you on Highway 24 in Rupert. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, 436-4424. Really good folks. I've been telling you for a couple of weeks now that there is going to be a great big happening up at Salmon, Idaho at the Lemhi County Fairgrounds on April 9th all the way through April 13th. And it is going to be ripping good. You bet Fred Snook, my buddy, is going to put together the 42nd annual Salmon Select Horse and Mule Sale. Oh, my goodness sakes, this is going to be great. Starting on Wednesday, April 9th with mule clinics. They're going to have some excellent people coming in. Thursday, of course, April 10th, they're going to start things off with a good big commercial building and all the vendors. And, of course, they're going to have horsemanship clinics and mule clinics. And then Friday, of course, the great big mule sale, 40 barrel racing. Saturday, they're going to have the horse sale along with trail horse competition and all kinds of other things. Sunday, a great big team roping. I mean, wow, this is really something, the 42nd annual Salmon Select Horse and Mule Sale up at the Lemhi County Fairgrounds in Salmon. Don't you miss this. It's going to be a lot of fun. Oh, in just a moment, we're going to have our next guest on the phone with the Alliance Defending Freedom, and that's going to be Carrie Kupek, and we're going to get her on the phone. She was actually at the Supreme Court hearings regarding Hobby Lobby, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. I want to also remind you about what's going on at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More, and we talked to Jason last week and had a really interesting conversation with him about their 67th anniversary spectacular sale that's going on. My goodness sakes, you better believe they've got all the carpet. They've got all the bedroom sets, all the mattresses, all the accessories, all the lamps, all the recliners, all the sofas. I can't put it all into an ad. You better stop in there today and share in the savings of the 67th anniversary spectacular that's been going on at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. Nice people helping you to beautify and make more of a comfortable home. Okay, let's go to the phone lines, and we are going to welcome to the phone line this morning the very nice lady with the Alliance Defending Freedom, Carrie Kupek. Good morning, Carrie. How are you?
Hi, Zeb. How are you doing this morning?
I am good. Carrie, give us a little background, if you would, please, on, I think you've done this in the past, but I'll have you do it again, your connection with Alliance Defending Freedom and exactly what you do for this organization.
Sure. I'm an attorney, and I'm the Legal Communications Director for Alliance Defending Freedom, which means I do a little bit of everything, some media, some public relations, some writing, and just sort of, bridging between the attorneys and the media and kind of getting our issues out there and to listeners like yours and other outlets.
Carrie, now I understand that you were back in Washington, D.C., and actually had a chance to attend the Supreme Court hearings regarding Hobby Lobby and also the Conestoga Wood Company case. What's happening there? Bring us up to speed.
Sure. Well, actually, I wasn't able to get into the oral arguments myself. Our attorneys were there. I had to sort of stand outside in the snow with the rest of the media and just keeping an eye on the rallies and things like that. But the attorneys briefed me on what happened, and I've listened to the oral arguments. And so just to give a little context again, the two families, the Greens and the Hans, owners of Hobby Lobby, and then the other family owns Conestoga Wood Specialties, a small wood cabinet-making business in Pennsylvania. They were before the Supreme Court this past Tuesday because they refused to provide 4 of 20 contraception-related devices that Obamacare is mandating that they provide. And they provide, like I said, 16, but 4 of those happen to be abortifacients, and because of their religion and because of their conscience, they say we can't do that. And because of those 4 abortifacients, these 2 families are before the Supreme Court. So that's why we were there.
Carrie, I'm looking at...
Yes.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, I'm looking at this case that could be a landmark decision that the government basically is going to tell me, it's going to tell you, it's going to tell everybody in private business what you can and can't do in the future. And it's going to be absolutely the ruination and disdain of free enterprise. Do you agree or not?
Yeah, this is a big problem. I do agree because, there was some interesting things said during oral arguments that I want to highlight that speak directly to your point. But, for instance, Justice Kagan actually said that, this isn't anything about violating your religion. You're just getting a choice. You can either do this thing or this thing, or if this thing violates your religion, you just have to pay a penalty. And, Paul Clement, the attorney who argued for both families, did an outstanding job, and he was, basically alluding to this being a Hobson's choice. This isn't a choice. This is saying, if I don't do what the government says that I must do, which violates my religion, I'm going to be penalized. I'm going to be punished, and we know that's not a choice, and that undercuts the very reason for starting a business. I mean, if you have to check your religion at the door when you go to work, I mean, how is that helpful for business? It's a very concerning thing, and the fact that Justice Kagan would actually say that, it's a choice. Well, of course it's not a choice, because if I choose to not violate to violate my conscience, I get penalized.
The thing that bothers me is that people in the so-called knowledge of the Constitution and our country, like Justice Kagan and others, basically are looking at the Hobby Lobby case and Conestoga case and saying, like you just said, well, now listen, what's the big deal? You're a big business. You can kick in the kitty at least a couple of million or $10 or $15 million as a fine, and everything will be hunky-dory. This is absolutely insanity, because I don't want the government telling me what I can and can't support through my religious values.
Right. And what's interesting is that there is no case, we have no case that says that corporations, or, I should say for-profit businesses, we can just call it that, for-profit businesses, there's no case that says that for-profit businesses can't exercise religion or, can't, just sort of do their business in line with the values of the shareholders. We don't have any case on record saying that we can't do that. So that's another thing I'd like to point out. And you also know that every court of appeals, federal court of appeals, has actually said that a corporation or a for-profit business can have a race. Well, race is certainly a personal sort of human characteristic. So why can a business have a race for legal purposes but can't have the right to the ability to exercise religion? I mean, this is just inconsistent and, really flies in the face of the First Amendment.
Let me ask you something, Carrie, and maybe I'm stepping out of bounds here by trying to mix some different cases. But when I look at the photography case with Elaine Photography, and I look at the other case with the bakery regarding the gays and lesbians and transgenders, etc., in my business, if I don't want to do business with a person or a group of people, you can very respectfully say, no, I'm sorry, I'm booked on that weekend, or no, I'm sorry, that goes against my beliefs, but I recommend that maybe you go down the street and do business with so-and-so. Have we lost the right of refusal in this country to where the government's going to demand and command that we must do everything?
Well, I think we're headed down a slippery slope with respect to exercising religious freedom, because obviously when you enter the marketplace and you're say, doing business with general things like, you're serving hamburgers or or operating a taxi cab. I mean, these things aren't really a burden on your religion if, say, you pick up someone or serve someone who, you're perhaps opposed to in some way. I mean, there's no real issue there. But like you said, when there's an issue of, say, like for instance with Hobby Lobby and Conestoga, providing life-destroying drugs that go against everything they believe in, every reason they even operate their company, that's a big problem, and it's deeply concerning.
Now, if they decide against Hobby Lobby, what will be the negative outcome to the business, the employees, and the owners? What basically is the dark picture if the Supreme Court does vote against them?
Well, it's a very dark picture, and here's why. If the court rules against Conestoga and Hobby Lobby, basically what they're saying is that businesses, for-profit corporations, and the like, they have no religious freedom. They have no standing to sue for any reason based on, religious exercise or anything like that. And so, which is totally disturbing. And also Justice Kennedy, which obviously he can go either way a lot of times with these kinds of cases. He actually seemed troubled by this implication and pressed the Solicitor General of the United States and said, let me get this straight. If for some reason there was a law that said for-profit corporations must pay for the elective surgical abortions of their employees, basically, if we agree with you, if we rule in the favor of the government, they would have no standing to sue. They would be forced to provide abortions, elective abortions for their employees. And the government conceded and said, they hemmed and hawed a little bit, but ultimately they said, yeah, that's true. I mean, this is crazy. This is a very concerning thing, something that all Americans should be concerned about because, again, since there's no reason that you have to check your religion at the door when you go to work. And, our First Amendment totally doesn't support that. Our First Amendment says that you have a right to exercise, your religion, obviously in a reasonable manner, whether you're operating a business, handling money, or, just going about your everyday life.
Okay, now, I honestly think, and you can disagree with me if you wish, because your people have been closer to what's been said than I have, but the guy on the Supreme Court that I don't trust, the one on the Supreme Court that I think it's going to come down to a 5-4 decision, is going to be Supreme Court Justice Roberts. For some reason, this guy has been so wishy-washy, as he's proved in the past. What are the concerns about who's in favor and who's against?
Well, it's hard to say. I will say this, though. Chief Justice Roberts, he actually had some excellent questions and made some very good points to what we're talking about right now. And for instance, he did say at one point, and I'll read you the quote exactly. He said the whole point of RFRA, and RFRA is this Religious Freedom Restoration Act, under which these companies are making these claims that they have a right, to exercise their religion in the marketplace. And he actually said during oral arguments, isn't the whole point of RFRA, is that Congress wanted to provide exceptions for the religious views of particular, particular people, including proprietors. So actually, it seemed like, based on his questions and his statements, it seemed to us, or if you read the transcript, that he appeared to be saying, hey, come on, you can't tell a business owner that they have no religious rights. That's crazy. I mean, at least that's what his statements and questions appeared to be alluding to.
Now, I understand that most people think that this will be solidified and they will have a verdict by what, June?
Probably the end of June, yes.
Okay. Keep us posted, Carrie. You do a wonderful job, and I'm very fortunate to have you on the program talking about this. Anything else you want to mention before we let you go this morning?
No, everyone, we appreciate you having us on and listening, and I just really want to encourage, your listeners to keep on talking about this issue, to their friends, to their family, because this is something that is really going to potentially shift our country in a very new direction, a very disturbing direction that completely undermines why our country was founded in the first place. And I think it's very important for everyone, regardless of what you do as a job or where you're at in life, to just keep on talking and thinking through this and keep on fighting for religious freedom that is just such an essential part to this nation and what we love and cherish.
And before I let you go, tell everybody how they can keep in touch on this case and other cases with the Alliance Defending Freedom.
Sure, you can check us out at alliancedefendingfreedom.org, or if you want a little more in-depth analysis and coverage of our cases, you can go to adsmedia.org.
All right. Carrie, God bless you. Have a wonderful day, and thanks for taking the time to come on the show this morning.
Zeb, thanks so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Very nice lady right there, Carrie Kupek with the Alliance Defending Freedom, talking to us about the Supreme Court hearing against the Conestoga and Hobby Lobby case, and we'll keep you informed as to what's going on there. Gina, would you do me a big favor right now?
What's that?
Would you try to get Senator Dean Cameron on the phone right away? Would you do that for me?
You betcha.
And do you have the numbers over there?
I got to memorize.
Okay, if you would do that, I want to talk to him about this being the March 31st,
yes,
the last day for sign-up on Obamacare, and I want to get his opinion on this real quick. Would you do that?
You got it.
Thank you very much. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, let's ride. Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. Oh, my goodness. Let's tell you that they've got all the ATVs over there. I mean, open the showroom door, and there they are, all red, blue, yellow, orange, whatever color. I mean, they've got them in every size and every different statistic. I mean, these are fantabulous. And don't forget, too, they've got all the accessories, and they've got the watercrafts coming in every day, the best in parts and service department, greatest guys in the valley. And of course, all of this is at Let's Ride. Now, they're closed on Mondays, but they're open Tuesdays through Saturdays from 9 to 6. And they're right there on Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley, where the fun is sold. Let's Ride. You stop over and see them today, okay?
He is busy with a client right now, but he will call as soon as he's available.
I hope so. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Gina. Good job. Good job.
Well,
thank you very much.
Actually, I was in talking with Dean, and I finally got all of my Obamacare stuff set up, finally got verified and everything, and of course I got, what kind of a discount I'm going to get, and, so we figured out plans and everything, and I am getting some decent health care coverage, but this is the way I look at it. I'm going to have to scramble for an extra X amount of dollars a month just to pay for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I realize that it's something that, we are all mandated to do, and today is the last day to get it done. But I really am not going to see any sort of benefits out of getting this health care for a year.
And here's something else I want to talk to Dean about. And you can look this up. I mean, it's a common known fact that basically Obamacare has been a bust. Yes. And basically they have lied to us from the federal government about its inception and the getting people signed up. And here's the number one thing that bothers me.
Okay.
If you're the government of the richest, strongest, and best enforced nation in the world, do you really mean to tell me, a taxpayer, that through Obamacare you can tell me that over 6 million people have signed up, but you can't tell me how many have actually bought and paid for the policy with their premiums? Now, I'm not going to say I'm a rocket scientist, but I'm not stupid either. You don't own something till you pay for it.
Exactly. And here's the skinny. Okay, so they know through their website exactly who's paying and who gets absolutely free. They know this.
So why won't they release the numbers, Gina?
I have no idea. Maybe because all of those of us who are actually paying for it, those numbers are so few as to those who are not.
Well, yeah, and let me ask you this. You remember, we've covered this now every week for about the last, a year or more.
Yes.
And we've talked about Obamacare, and we've talked about just a couple of weeks ago, Gina, that the state of Oregon The state of Oregon had literally zip, zilch, nada, nothing. Nobody had signed up on Obamacare over in the state of Oregon. Now, all of a sudden, they went from literally 1.1 million potential sign-ups to where today they're claiming 6 million.
I don't buy that out of, because Oregon has been like so against this anyway. I highly doubt. That would be like the entire population of Portland.
Yeah, what I'm upset about is if our government is so inept, and quite frankly I think it is with the Obama administration, to let me know that, oh my goodness sakes, this thing is a rip-roaring success. All of a sudden they came out of the gate and there's over 6 million people that have signed up. I look at the bottom line as a businessman. How many people have paid and actually own the premiums? I don't care if they've looked it up on the website. I want to know who owns the premiums.
And I would like to know those numbers as well. And I would like to know how many people I am helping with getting their free care.
There you go. There you go.
That's what I really want to know because, I'm a single mom, and I am not only providing for myself and my child, but also for my brother as well. And so I would really like to know where my tax dollars are going because, I can't have any more dollars going out of my billfold for somebody else to benefit.
And why should you? Why should you? Why should anybody in this country basically underwrite the salvation of having insurance to a very minuscule few at the cost of your policy and the increase in your premiums?
Exactly.
No way.
This is what I want to know. What are you guys? Okay, so I'm paying for your health care. What are you going to do for me? Are you going to get out there and are you going to volunteer? Are you going to get out there and do some community service work for any organization within your community? I want to know that my tax dollars are going to go to someone who's actually doing something within the community. Don't just be a bum. Don't just sit there on the couch. Don't just sit there and watch Oprah or whatever it is that you're watching. Get out there and do something because I'm paying for your health care.
Do you remember the original concept of Obamacare when Barack Obama looked at the camera and he said, there are 30 million people that have never had health insurance and we're trying to help them. Aha, wait a minute, stop. So now supposedly 6 million, not 30 million. That's quite a difference of 24 million people someplace. 6 million people supposedly have signed up for Obamacare, but in that 6 million, they have been rewrites because they have lost their other coverage.
Yes.
So what about this great big figure of 30 million people that Obamacare was supposed to help? We're still down in the minuscule numbers of maybe 3 million people, 1/10 of what it was supposed to help.
I'm just not impressed with this whole thing. I actually sat down and figured it out. And what I pay for my health care as far as me going to the doctor, all of the prescriptions, and for everybody in my household, what I actually pay out of pocket and to what I'm going to be spending per month for these premiums. I spend less out of pocket just by paying for it myself.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at this premium as kind of a hindrance. It's a bill that really is unnecessary for me.
Absolutely. You know what? I goofed. I forgot to get the weather in here. I guess I better be slapped in the old face because I forgot about that. The weather this hour is brought to you by Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Don't forget, if you've got a collection of firearms you want to sell, you can sell them at Red's Trading Post. They can even put them online, and you'll get the most money for your collection. And they take trade-ins, too, on all guns and firearms, so check it out today. Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls, 733-3546. Here now is Michael Rogers' weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. Cloudy. Still got some showers hanging around. Still got some cooler temperatures hanging around. Clouds today, some sun. Look for a high today, right around 55, 53. Winds are not going to be a problem today out of the south, 5 miles an hour. More of the same for this evening, 31 for the overnight low. Tomorrow we're going to start off with a possibility of rain and snow showers, and then it would always turn over to rain later on during the afternoon. Could see some thunderstorms, too. Possible. Springtime, 49 for the high. Tomorrow, winds are going to kick up out of the east-northeast at about 15 to 25 miles an hour. That is your weather. Enjoy the day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
There you go. And brought to you by Red's Trading Post for all your guns, ammo, and accessories. 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Real quick, I want to remind you, too, about our friends with Lennox Home Comfort Systems. Oh, my goodness, yes, the comfort of a gas furnace, air conditioner, heat pumps, all of this through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Call today, 678-0459. You know, Gina, I'm going to sound like I'm being very selfish when I say this, but the original premise, are you there?
Yeah.
The original premise, like I said a moment ago, of Obamacare was the bleeding heart liberals' attitude that 30 million people didn't have insurance, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And the rest of us, it was estimated whether we had bad, good, or ugly, or indifferent, or maybe well-received policies, we were okay. But let me ask you this. Wouldn't it have been a lot easier, financially and also structurally, had the Obama administration looked at the 30 million and said, you know, we can create a pool, we can create a policy, we can create something through government that would give them somewhat of a coverage program and not destroy insurance from everybody else just to help 30 million. And now it's only helping maybe 6 million out of that 30. This is ridiculous.
It is completely ridiculous, and this is the way I look at it. It's just government wanting to get their fingers into everything. And my major concern is this. What are they going to be doing with all of this extra money that they have coming in?
Spend it.
On what?
Everything.
I know.
Shrimp on shrimp on treadmills, etc.
Yeah, I know. It's like, okay, so you guys are asking more money, which is essentially a new tax, and for those people that don't sign up, they're going to be penalized for it. And I really don't see any sort of benefit out of this, except for it's just, honestly, I'm going to have to scramble for an extra $400 a month that's going to be coming out of my pocket to pay for somebody else. And it's going to be services that I really can't use for a year anyway.
Yes, that's right. Do we have a call?
Yes.
Let's see if it's Dean. I hope it is. I'll ask him.
Hello.
Good morning. You're on the air.
Yes. But not who we expected, right?
Well, no, but go ahead real fast. We're almost out of time.
Okay. The point I want to point out is in America in the last 25 years, probably further back than that, do you know of anyone who has been denied health care, regardless of whether they could pay?
That's a good point. No, I can't say that I do.
So what have we done now except make the people who were just barely able to keep their health insurance for it to skyrocket?
Yeah. You know, Keith, health insurance, you know, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that health insurance companies were jabbing the American public, but there were a lot of things that could have been done to stimulate competition, like having interstate sales of the product so that they weren't limited just to be taking whatever was available in their states. Competition breeds better success in a business or the insurance companies. There were a lot of things that could have been done to stimulate better coverage, but this Obamacare is a joke, but nobody's laughing.
Let me tell you something about the government. When I was in Texas last year on our mission, I have to have these eye injections because I have a wet macula. And here in Twin Falls, it might cost me $400 or $500 for that shot. I had one shot done in Texas, $5,700.
Holy cow. I mean, wow.
Medicare, as you know, our government, the alert people they are, they said, no, we're only going to give you $2,200.
Oh, my goodness.
And I didn't know about this till after I came home and looked through my mail and everything. But,
yeah.
You know, that's one of the problems is not in our area. I think our doctors here are the greatest, the most honest that you could ask for. But I'll tell you what, down there in Texas, they're money grubbers.
You have said a big story, my friend. Thank you very much. God bless you for your call. I appreciate it. Thanks, Keith. Wow. I mean, what we're looking at here just has never made any sense to me. And I don't want some of the liberals out there in the audience that are just looking like a preying wolf to come after me and bite me. I'm just saying this. I feel bad for the people that didn't have coverage. 30 million. Let's use the figures they said initially. 30 million people didn't have coverage. Why not work something up that would have been apropos for them? For them! instead of taking a great big crowbar, dismantling all of health insurance across from the Atlantic to the Pacific, and destroying the basic health foundation of companies and their service and their policies. Why destroy everything to put us in a system of complete chaos with people that are so damn dumb they don't understand? Come here from Sikkim, the Obama administration, and lie to us, change the law 37 times to suit themselves. Come on, folks, this is the worst piece of legislation that's ever happened. Good morning, you're on the air. Quickly, I got 2 minutes.
Yes, Vladimir Lenin said that the arch of communism, the keystone in the arch of communism was health care, controlling health care. And it's always been this way. Even back in the beginnings when, you had Utopian by Thomas More and Hobbes, all this stuff about the future of all these societies, they've always included health care as a key ingredient to controlling the people.
And they're doing a very good job.
And again, like Thomas Jefferson says, well, whether or not it was Jefferson, Franklin, whoever it was, the people have to be informed and proactive for a government, a representative republic to work.
Absolutely. Randy, I appreciate your call as always. Thank you.
You bet, sir.
Have a good day. Thank you much. My goodness, do you know what? I've got the menu for the Chadwick Sports Grill. Oh, boy, I'll tell you what. Deanne, can you come here a second, please? And, of course, don't forget the Chadwick at 139 West Main in Burley. Oh, my goodness sakes. They've got great, what they call the hot brown. Comes with choice potato, veggies, and super salad. Oh, this is going to be good. You stop in and check it out today at, of course, our friends at the Chadwick Sports Grill. Give us a jingle and let us know how good the food is, and I'll tell you what, I've been there many, many times, and they can help you. The best of service, the best of menu, everything at the Chadwick Sports Grill in Burley. Stop in and have the special and order off the menu. Love their Philly cheesesteaks at the Chadwick in Burley. Excellent place to go. We're going to take a little break and be back, and coming up we've got an author by the name of Jeff Olson from Utah that wrote a book about a tragedy in his life with the losing of his wife and son in a terrible car accident. And then at 10:30 we've got a guy that everybody wants to listen to, gun advocate, and that's Joe Wolverton at 10:30. Don't go away. Oh, my. Welcome back. Hour number 3. We're on the home stretch right now. Welcome back. Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service. Call them, please, at 734-6969. Well, we have just a second before we get our guest on the air. I want to remind you that every Thursday we have a segment on our program called School Days in Cassia County, brought to you by 2 wonderful businesses. First off, A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley, and don't forget they've got hundreds and hundreds of spring dresses in there at just beginning at $20. And if you mention you heard the ad on this show, then of course you get an extra 10% off. Gift wrapping is always free. A great family store at A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. And then also our thanks to Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley. Don't forget, Surgery Center reminds everybody, life-saving colonoscopies, all of the hand surgeries, well over 100 surgeries done there every month, saving area residents thousands of dollars at the Ambulatory Surgery Center, 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley, along with A Child's World in Burley, bringing you School Days in Cassia County. Right now, we're going to go to the phone lines, and we have an author that has written not 1 but 2 books so far, and I'd like to visit with him this morning, and that's, of course, Jeff Olson from down in Utah. Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
Hello, Zeb. I'm well. How are you doing?
Well, I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to come on the program and discuss your books. But now, this book that you've written recently called Beyond Mile Marker 80 actually is a book that follows up, I believe, your first book called I Knew Their Hearts. Am I right or wrong on that?
That's correct. Yep, that's perfect.
Well, give us the background, if you would, please, and bring us up to speed on the first book, I Knew Their Hearts, and then, of course, the one that follows, Beyond Mile Marker 80. Why? What are the books about?
Well, it's interesting, and actually today is the 17-year anniversary. 17 years ago, I had a terrible automobile accident. It crushed both my legs, and actually the left leg was amputated above the knee. It broke my back in a couple places, but did not paralyze me. My right arm was torn out, my rib cage was crushed, and the seatbelt came through me and ruptured all my insides. But the most devastating part of the accident is my wife and youngest son were killed in the accident, which was devastating. I mean, just took my whole world and turned it upside down. The first book, I Knew Their Hearts, it's a very personal memoir of how I got through that. I had some very profound spiritual or out-of-body experiences which really buoyed me up and carried me through. I was in the hospital for 6 months. I had 18 surgeries, but the things that happened to me were so personal and profound, it was actually difficult to share them, and yet I was inspired to write a book and share those things. My surviving son and I moved on. He was 7 years old at the time and also in the accident, but was not seriously hurt. And, we went on as a father-son team for a while. I eventually healed and was fitted with a prosthetic limb and learned to walk, got back to work. And Beyond Mile Marker 80, which is the second book, is the story of what goes beyond that. How does one pick up the pieces after a tragedy like that and create a life? I've remarried. We've adopted 2 boys, so I've now got 3 sons, a fourth one that's looking over me from the beyond, but 3 sons here, and my oldest son has grown. He's attending Utah State now up in Logan, which is also my alma mater. And life has moved on in a beautiful way, but always has its challenges. Beyond Mile Marker 80 kind of takes a serious look of how one chooses joy through grief and pain and attempting to rebuild a family that's deeply bereaved.
Jeff, you make it, and please don't take this the wrong way, but you make it sound so easy now. But at the time when you were in the healing process of going through all the struggles of trying to keep and maintain your life and trying to figure out where to go, what you had to do, learning how to walk on a prosthetic limb, all of this, the negativity about, oh my goodness, I just lost all my family, and where do I go from here? Why would the thought come into your mind to write a book? I mean, that really intrigues me as to what entered your mind one day that you wanted to write a book for therapy for yourself, or what was the real reason?
No, it's interesting, and I'm glad you asked. Jeb, because I had no intention of ever writing a book. I didn't fancy myself an author. I'd gone back to work. I had a day job. I still work 50, 60 hours a week in my day job. But things fell into place in a strange way. Actually, I was teaching a Sunday school class on a Sunday morning, and I shared just a little bit of what had happened because I felt impressed to. And someone in the back of the room said, gosh, you've got to talk to somebody down at BYU who studies these out-of-body type experiences. And I spoke to that fellow, and after I finished speaking with him, he said, you've got to speak to our group in Salt Lake. And I said, no, I really don't talk about these things. I mean, to me, they were so personal. And number one, I thought people might think I was crazy if I shared it. But number two is they were sacred. I mean, it was my stuff, and they were very personal to me. And he finally encouraged me to speak to a group that was dealing with grief and loss, and it was never easy. I cried this morning when I got up and thought, boy, it's the anniversary, and you never really get over it. You simply get used to it. And it's been 17 years. I couldn't speak about it for years. I couldn't even bring it up. I would just fall apart, and the pain and grief and regret were overwhelming. But in speaking to this little group in Salt Lake City, there was a publisher in the audience that came up and said, "You've got to do a book. Let's do a book. Let's assist you to get this story down because it deserves to be told." And I was still reluctant, quite honestly, and ended up going back to the scene of the accident. I went back to mile marker 80, which is where the accident happened, and my older brother was a law enforcement officer. He could tell me the exact place, and I went back and asked. And when I say I asked, I've always been a spiritual person, and I asked God, am I supposed to write this book? Am I really supposed to share these things that I've learned and that I've been through and that I experienced? And the answer became very clear to me, and I don't profess to talk to God on a regular basis, but I got an answer that day. And I was told to share my experience. And if I would, people would heal.
Oh, no, Jeff.
And they would get their own answers to whatever was bothering them or challenging them in their lives. And so I did. I embarked to write the book, and it was a scary thing. It's very personal. And the book happened to do well, and people are healing. I mean, the funnest part is the cards or letters or emails I get. I mean, everything from inmates up in Vancouver, Washington, to, you know, I got one last week from a 16-year-old boy whose mother is clinically depressed. His father's an addict, and he said, reading this book changed my life and gave me hope and gave me courage to carry on. So yeah, it wasn't that I woke up one day and said, I'm going to write a book. It was quite a process of really digging deep and then getting my own answer as to how to handle it and what I should do, and that's what inspired me to finally put it down.
You know, Jeff, I admire your tenacity on this because looking at any personal tragedy, and I've had some in my life, sometimes you want to just kind of hold those in the back of your mind, and anytime they start to move to the forefront, that's kind of an area where you don't want to go there, but you really had to sit down and do a lot of research and remembering and put this on paper. That had to be, in the best respects, therapy that was really good for you.
It was, and and it was an interesting thing because I'm very close to my brothers who are a part of the book, and I did have to sit down and recall with them the order of things. Now, the interesting thing, the spiritual things that had happened to me, that was like yesterday. I will never forget every detail of every moment of that, but putting it all down and pouring it out, and there was times I was sitting at 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning, weeping all over myself as I recounted the story and relived the feelings of all that had gone on. But it was therapeutic. It was healing for myself to get it down on paper, to share what I had learned, and to realize that so much had moved forward since then.
The thing I'm impressed about with talking to you, Jeff, or anyone that's been through this horrific situation is that there came a time in your life where you knew you had to move on for the benefit of your son that was living and yourself, and you made the decision that you were going to find another family and make it through life with the family intact. That had to be a tough deal for you and your son.
It was, and my son, although he was very supportive as a young man, he went through some dark times in adolescence. I mean, I had all these spiritual experiences and these dreams or visions or whatever you want to call them, and he hadn't. I mean, he came to me as a 19, 20-year-old young man and just said, hey, I've begged God every day to feel something, to have something, to see something, to have any inkling, and nothing's happened. And he was at a very rough crossroads about, either I don't matter or you're deceived and a lot of things like that. The way the family came together was somewhat of a miracle. In fact, I never really dated. I wasn't out looking. I was deeply bereaved, and yet miracle after miracle would happen in a way that was beyond coincidence. You just say, wow, what a gift. And I did have profound communication, dreams about my deceased spouse. She sent me messages about the way she was working from the other side to put my life back together. I think if it were up to me, I probably would have just crawled in a corner and been broken for a very, very long time. But I had two very special angels in my deceased wife and my deceased son that really made it known to me in very interesting and profound ways that there was more, and that there was a time to get up and start walking and move on in life.
Actually, when you mentioned that a moment ago, the first thought that came into my mind, Jeff, is you've had 3 angels, and that would be also your current wife and family, because coming into your life and accepting your thoughts and your writings and your feelings, that had to be not so easy for your current family.
Yeah, no, and Tanya, my current wife, is an angel. I mean, she's the hero of this story. She had moved here to Utah from Oklahoma, had spent most of her life in Minnesota, brand new in town, didn't know a soul. You know, it's an interesting culture here in Utah. That was new to her. And she stepped up in a profound way and not only, you know, took on me and my son, but was spearheading the adoption of these 2 additional sons. And she is nothing less than an angel, and it's been a profound gift and blessing in my life. And it's, you know, I get emotional talking about that. You're right. I do have 3 angels, and my adopted boys are every much my boys, as much so as my natural son. And I've been very, very lucky. I often hesitate, you know, even in sharing these things, because I know there's so many that lose, and then they don't have the blessings or the dreams or the people come into their lives that really can provide love and healing.
Let me ask you this question, Jeff, and I got to tell the audience I have not as yet read either book, the first one, I Knew Their Hearts, or the second book, Beyond Mile Marker 80, but I absolutely want to add them to my library. The first book was a purpose, basically for therapy, and also, I'll say this, for maybe a soul cleansing for you to let your thoughts out and also to extend your feelings so that you could have the healing process. The second book, Beyond Mile Marker 80, what's the main thing you want the reader to take away from that book when they close the cover?
Well, the main thing is the first book covered so many of the out-of-body experiences and the spiritual things, and people, I've learned, call it a near-death experience. Beyond Mile Marker 80 is the life experience. I mean, that's the part where you get up in the morning, you got to put on your leg, in my case, and pull up your pants and go to work. And it is a challenge. The main thing I would have them take from the book is that no matter what the trial or the challenge or the opportunity might be, that there's an answer, and that we have our own answers if we can simply be still and listen and receive those answers. And it's never easy, but it's always worth it to move on and to heal and to take on the challenges, knowing that things are in divine order. There's no accidents, there's no coincidence, but we're in very, very good hands, even when our lives look like mayhem. And there's a way out. There's always light.
You know, Jeff, I would imagine, and I want to say this with the best of verbiage so as not to offend anybody in the audience, but I think you'll understand where I'm headed. In some respects, people take life for granted, and people that might not have had anything worse than maybe a hangnail or maybe got a paper cut on their thumb, they don't appreciate how fleeting and how valuable and precious life is. And your experience with these books might be able to shed some light about maybe they better look at their whole card and understand how blessed they are.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's blessings and miracles and everything, and the people around us, you know, the people we love, gosh, you know, tell them. I mean, don't send that letter, write that text, have that conversation, you know, live with no regrets, and really let the people around you know how you feel. It is but a moment, and you never know.
Absolutely.
You never know what might happen.
Absolutely. Now, Jeff, tell us about the books as far as where they can obtain them, how they can go about getting a copy of both books. Give us a little background on that.
Awesome. Well, the easiest way to get the books is probably on Amazon. I Knew Their Hearts has actually been in the top 10 in its category now for a year for Kindle downloads. They're available electronically. The new book, Beyond Mile Marker 80, will officially release next month, but you can go and pre-order it on Amazon. Just search Jeff Olson or search I Knew Their Hearts or search Beyond Mile Marker 80 on Amazon, and that's an easy way to get them. They're also in Siegel Book, Deseret Book, Barnes & Noble carries them. Some Costco's will have them. They're pretty easily accessible, but Amazon's a sure bet as far as going online and having it sent right to your door.
Absolutely. Jeff, thank you so much, and I mean that. God's blessings to you and your family and everything you're doing with these books. Now, the last question I'm going to ask you is, now that you're an accomplished Hemingway type, are you going to write some more books?
Well, there's probably more books. Yeah, there's probably more books. I'm a far cry from Hemingway. What I do know is, not being an author, I simply write from my heart. That's the only way I know to communicate, and so far it seems to be effective. But there may be more books. There's more books in me because life offers so many experiences to share and so many insights, and we'll see what happens from here, I suppose.
I just want to say thank you for taking your time. I've learned a lot, and I've appreciated your being on the program. Jeff Olson, I'm going to get those books, and I thank you so much, and I'll look forward to maybe coming back on the program with us and sharing some more. Would you please?
I would love to, Zed. Thank you very much.
God bless you. Thank you very much. Jeff Olson, author of not only the book called I Knew Their Hearts, but also his latest book, Beyond Mile Marker 80. And I'm going to have him back on the program after I read those books. And we'll give you a first-hand kind of opinion, okay? Very interesting, and a very nice man right there. Gina, let's, if we could, possibly, I've got about 5 minutes. Would it be a chance that I might get Dean on the phone real quick?
Well, let me try him again.
Okay, thanks. While we're waiting for that, I want to remind everybody about some public service announcements. First of all, you know, of course, that coming up on April 12th at the Burley King Fine Arts Center at 7 p.m., Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, A Night of Patriots and Today's Heroes. And for tickets, www.sergeantchrisworkmanscholarship.com or call 436-4149. Excellent evening with Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North. I just can't wait to go to that. I talked to Anna Workman the other day at Lunch Bunch. Get those tickets, ladies and gentlemen. How often do we get someone of his magnitude to come in and speak about what's happening in the world today? A man that knows. He's been front line. He understands it all. Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North at the King Fine Arts Center on April 12th at 7 p.m. Let's check with Gina.
Not yet.
No, it's not yet. Okay.
Not yet.
You know what we forgot this morning? I forgot the tip of the coffee cup, and this morning the tip of the coffee cup goes to Mr. and Mrs. Fred Preston, our great lunch bunchers, and also some more lunch bunchers, and that would be Mr. and Mrs. Dal Bradley. So congratulations, and the tip of the coffee cup. Hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. By the way, Gina...
Yes.
Wasn't Denny's lunch fantabulous?
It was. I actually had breakfast for lunch, and it was, so good.
You know what I had? I had that breakfast skillet of chicken fried steak.
Did you?
Oh, it's not on my diet.
I had the moons over my hammy sandwich.
The what?
Moons over my hammy sandwich.
Really?
It was really, really good.
Oh, man, I tell you, I've had so many people come up to us and say, thank you for having Lunch Bunch at Denny's restaurant. And the service, now, how often are you going to sit there and have all that service? And a lot of people started getting there like 10, 15 in the morning.
They did.
Yes, and
when I got there.
Yeah, they were done eating everything, and they were just waiting for all the door prizes and everything else. But I mean, the service fantastic, and Thomas comes in and visits with everybody, and Terry. I mean, man, the service has been impeccable.
Oh, gosh. You know what? I am not going to complain at all. Of course, I love it that when Terry is there, because she always makes sure, and especially Thomas, they always make sure that everything is just perfect, and everybody gets what they ordered. They get it on time. There's no lag. It's just, I love Denny's. And, you know, Deanne showed me an advertisement that they're running right now about different ways to make French toast for breakfast. Ooh.
Oh, I tell you what, Jim and you and your boy Kennedy, we all ought to get together some morning down there for breakfast.
I agree, because breakfast is my favorite meal.
Mine too.
I think.
Mine too. And I always look at it to the point where you can really pig out on breakfast. And the reason is you have all day to burn off the caloric content so you won't get fat.
Amen.
See?
Speaking of which, how was that cardboard breakfast?
Yeah, I tell you what, don't even go there. I'm so fed up with diets and everything else. And I splurged this weekend. Deanne, of course, is the world's greatest Sunday dinner cook. And she had a pot roast that would have knocked the Tony Lamas off of any cowboy in the world. Oh, it was delicious. With sliced tomatoes and onions and, it was fantastic.
And the potatoes, and so she put carrots and celery in there.
And she had the audacity to look at me and say, "Would you like another helping?" Doggone right, lady.
Did she do her famous biscuits, too?
I tell you what, she's just a fantastic cook, and I just love all of her food. And then when I'm on this diet where it's all this cardboard packaged stuff, and you heat it up in the microwave, and you serve it on a plate where it just barely covers up one little quarter of the plate, and you take a taste of it, and it tastes like it doesn't taste very good.
So, which, by the way, let me ask, how is your diet going?
Not well, thank you. I've cheated too many times in the last 2 weeks, and I've put on a little bit more of a little roly-poly roll.
So the Wranglers are fitting a little bit tighter.
Well, this is where I got to tell you, I got a pair of Wranglers on right now, that the minute that this program is over, normally I run out and catch some of the top news headlines. Not today. I am headed for the bedroom, going to strip my body of these very uncomfortable pants and put on something else.
Well, here's my question to you. Why do you dress up for the show?
Because
really nobody sees you from the waist down.
Yeah,
so
but I'm just waiting for the day that somebody somehow catches me. Not going to go there.
That would be Kelton Hatch when he...
I did something one day, and I'm not going to mention what it was because I don't want to incriminate myself. But I did something one day about 2 months ago without turning off the camera. And I am not going to... No, it wasn't that. It probably was a lot worse. But I did something that I shouldn't have, and it came back to me. Somebody in Indiana caught me.
Oh, I know who it was in Indiana.
Yeah, you do. You do. Yeah. And so now I'm very careful about reaching over and putting the pause button on here so that you don't see what you shouldn't see.
Yes, it's kind of like us chit-chatting off of the air.
Oh, boy.
I always make sure that everything is off. You kind of have to do the same thing with the webcam there. Though.
You and I would not be able to get a job as a Walmart greeter if they heard what we said.
And I'm okay with that.
Okay, I'll be back in 3.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Thank you very much. Welcome back, and we're in the final half hour of our program this morning. What I want to do real quick, I think I'll do Michael Rogers' weather because I don't want to interrupt Joe right in the middle of our interview. So if we could, please, we're going to have our weather with Michael Rogers, brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. It's time for Tax Return Meat Bundle. What's that? 75 pounds of beef, pork, and chicken, cut the way you like it for only $250. Oh my goodness, from Scarrows Meats. Locally owned meat processor serving the Jerome and Southern Idaho area for over 20 years, and they are the best. Selling taste one bite at a time, Scarrows Meats. Here right now is Michael Rogers' weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. Cloudy. Still got some showers hanging around. Still got some cooler temperatures hanging around. Clouds today, some sun. Look for a high today, right around 55, 53. Winds are not going to be a problem today out of the south, 5 miles an hour. More of the same for this evening, 31 for the overnight low. Tomorrow we're going to start out with a possibility of rain and snow showers, and then it would already turn over to rain. Later on during the afternoon. Could see some thunderstorms, too. Possible. Springtime, 49 for the high. Tomorrow, winds are going to kick up out of the east-northeast at about 15 to 25 miles an hour. That is your weather. Enjoy the day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. Brought to you by Scarrows Meats. I know these folks, and they are the best. Selling taste one bite at a time. 324-7657, the number to call. Ladies and gentlemen, last week, or I guess it was about a week and a half ago, I had this dear friend of mine on the program. He's been here many times in the past. But a lady called in, and she was 100% right, that we need to make Joe Wolverton a weekly or a monthly fixture on this program in the least. And he does a wonderful job explaining what's going on with guns and ammo and this administration trying to take away our Second Amendment rights. Good morning, Joe Wolverton. How are you?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
Well, Joe, ever since we had you on the program, honestly, I had a lot of calls, I had some emails, etc. People are very, very concerned because they see and hear more government regulation and rules coming into their life. They see and hear about what's going on with the United Nations. They see and hear how insidious this Obama administration is. And you alluded to it a little bit the last time you were on the air, but we ran out of time. Honestly, bottom line, Joel Wolverton speaking to me and all my audience, how concerned are you about what's going to happen in the next 3 years?
Well, Zeb, I really believe that we are at one of those points in history where everyone's going to have to, like Cicero of Rome once said, the time has come to wear on your brow how you feel about this republic. And I think we're at that point where we don't have the luxury anymore of feeling like we're doing enough by posting stories on Facebook or by getting on the radio and making comments. We've got to really start getting involved, and the first thing we have to do is educate ourselves, find out just how vast this attack on our liberty is, and I can tell you it's coming from every quarter of government, including state governments. And it's time to start, ramping up our efforts to push back against this in a serious way.
Now, when you say state government, and pardon my interruption sometimes when you make a really good point, but when you say state government, do you mean to say that whether it's Utah, Wyoming, Arkansas, Wisconsin, or here in the state of Idaho, that you're seeing our state people start to bend towards government enforcement of firearms?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. You're fortunate in Idaho that, your state legislature has passed and your governor signed a good Second Amendment protection law. But, I mean, it's not as strident as it should be, to be honest, because we shouldn't have to ask government permission to do something that is a right given to us by God. And unfortunately, over the generations, even good conservatives have become convinced that, for example, the reducing the steps that it takes to obtain a concealed carry permit is a victory for gun rights. Well, that's not a victory. That's turning something that's a right into something that's a privilege that's granted to you by the state. That's not a victory. But unfortunately, like I say, over the years, we've been convinced that that's what it is. And I think that's one of the major things. And, of course, you've got most states have done nothing to curtail the federal assault on gun ownership rights. And, I guess one of the biggest stories just came out between the time that you and I spoke last, and that's the joint statement issued by President Obama and his colleagues in the EU. At the end of their EU summit, they issued a joint statement, and the last paragraph of that statement called for disarmament and enforcement of the UN Arms Trade Treaty.
Joe, let me jump in here and ask a couple of questions real quick. When you talk about the registration of guns and what might happen, let me ask you this. From the days of the Old West, whether it's in Utah, Idaho, Arizona, California, etc., most anybody, old cowpunchers and everybody traveling, always had a gun open on their hip. And they'd go into town, they'd sit down and have a lunch at a cafe or whatever, the gun on the hip. When did all Western states change that so that an open carry was illegal, and now we have to rely upon concealed weapons permits?
Well, they did it at different times, but I can tell you, as the West became more dependent on Washington, beginning of the 20th century, they became states there at the end of the 19th century, Utah, Idaho, for example, and once that happened, they became dependent, especially after passage of the 16th and 17th Amendments. All the states became dependent on the federal government, and the federal government started realizing that if they're going to keep people in their place, the first thing we need to do is get guns out of their hands. And so, as you know, they enforced federal gun regulations based on using excuses like the Commerce Clause and the General Welfare Clause. And the West was disarmed in that very manner. And, of course, it's continued now for over 100 years to the point where not only are we disarmed and have to beg for permission to carry a hidden weapon, but they tell us how much ammunition we can carry. They tell us if we have to have it locked up in our home or not. They tell us what kind of weapon we can have. Of course, some weapons have the government has taken it upon themselves to define as assault weapons. Well, what the heck is an assault weapon? That makes no sense at all. But of course, we buy into it. We use the same language. We call weapons assault weapons. And so anyway, as states have become more dependent on the federal government to the point where now states like Utah and Idaho are, almost, over a third of their budget comes from the federal government, and all of that money comes with strings, and one of those strings is you will enforce federal firearm regulations. And now we're left at a point where we're, for all real purposes, for all important purposes, we are a disarmed society because we're permitted by the government to own, firearms that in the face of a real battle would be nearly useless, to be honest.
I've got 1,000 questions for you, Joe, but one question that comes to mind, and I've never really heard a good answer, is with concealed weapons permits. It's so silly. Why can't there be a one-size-fits-all concealed weapons permit so that if I travel to Utah, I'm not going to get in trouble? If I travel down to Arizona and I go through 2 other states, I'm not going to get in trouble? I mean, why not a one-size-fits-all concealed weapons permit if we have to go through the permitting process?
Well, I think the only way that, first of all, you said at the end there, you said there should not be a such thing. Let's get that straight. I know you and I agree. There should not be a such thing as a concealed carry law. You should be able to carry a weapon if you want to carry a weapon. The Second Amendment makes it very clear, the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Shall not. Not shall not be infringed unless we want to, but shall not be infringed. And as far as having a one-size-fits-all, I mean, you don't want a federal standard, that's for sure, because you don't want them any more involved in gun ownership and gun carrying than they are. But I think that what you could have interstate pacts, and I think we have a few of those that are working pretty well. I know the Utah permit is, I think, accepted in 34 states. Mm-hmm. I think we're probably as close to that as we can, given the fact that some of these states are run by raging lunatics when it comes to their state governments and leftists like you wouldn't believe. But I think we're probably as close as we can get to a one-size-fits-all carry permit, unless we were having, the glorious moment when such things were completely done away with, and we were allowed to. The only permit we would need to carry a weapon would be a little copy of the Second Amendment in our pocket.
Yeah, Joe, now, you've heard this 1,000 times. I've heard it. We've read it. It's on bumper stickers and everything. This bravado statement, they'll never get my gun until they pry it from my cold, dead fingers. This bravado and this John Wayne attitude might be okay, but you touched on this last time you were on the program, and you're right, that when they come, whether it's the United Nations or whomever, to enforce a gun confiscation or registration law, they're probably going to be bad guys that are going to make threats to your family, your well-being, and your home and your property, and I wonder how many great big John Wayne bravado types are going to stand up to that.
Sadly, I don't think many, and I've given this speech so many times around the country, and it's the same story. Just like you say, everyone says, they'll get it when they pry it from my cold, dead fingers, but, we're living in a world where the local police are being armed by the Department of Homeland Security and by the Pentagon with weaponry and equipment that rivals the special forces. And if you're going to stand there and, hope to protect your 30-30 and your Glock and everything in the face of that, I don't see how it can be done. And the fact is, we'll probably follow, especially in light of this joint U.S.-EU statement on it, and the statement by the EU Parliament in February regarding disarmament of civilians. It looks more and more like President Obama is going to follow the British model of how to disarm the populace. And, what it'll come down to is it'll be letter after letter regarding wanting you to not only register your weapons, but then go turn them in at the local police department. And when you don't, then that'll become a violation of some federal law that'll be enacted very soon. And when that happens, they'll send, after you've failed to comply for a statutory amount of time, the next step will be, armed enforcement at your door who are armed, like I say, to the teeth, and you're standing there in the doorway. On one side you're looking at your family who relies on you for their well-being, and the other side you're looking at, at least a year in prison, escorted by, black uniformed, submachine gun carrying, armed, DHS agents. What are you going to choose when the rubber hits the road? Are you going to choose to stay and provide for your family?
Yeah, but
or are you going to choose to go with them to federal prison? It's a hard decision.
Okay, but right there, I've got to jump in and ask. But there are other legal loopholes that should be prevalent in that situation. Number one, if our illustrious leader, and I use those words loosely, Obama, wants to advocate and promote a gun confiscation type situation across the United States, what about our county sheriffs? Can't they counteract that? Can't they do something to help the counties and the citizenry?
Yes, sir. The short answer is yes. Yes, the sheriff is the ultimate executive in the county, constitutionally speaking. He stands between the citizens and anyone who would take their liberties away, including their right to keep and bear arms as protected by the Second Amendment. But here you have the problem that I was speaking of regarding DHS and the Pentagon. They're making billion-dollar grants to these sheriff's department and local police departments and making them no more than administrative subunits of Homeland Security. I just wrote an article a couple of days ago outlining more and more how Department of Homeland Security is paying billions to outfit these police, and these police think they're getting these, in these sheriff's departments, they think they're getting these weapons and these vehicles as grants, but the fact is, when you sign contracts with the Homeland Security and the Pentagon, essentially making yourself no more than an outpost of a giant federal police force. So when the day comes, the Homeland Security standing at your door saying, Mr. Bell, you failed to surrender your weapons, we're here to enforce Public Law 41298, and you call your local sheriff, there's not going to be anything he can do because he's been, tricked, sold a bill of goods that makes him first and foremost answerable to Homeland Security and not to the citizens who elected him.
And there's something else I want you to elaborate on, Joe, because as you were talking about, they can force you to come down and basically register your weapons and tell them every kind of a gun you own, tell them all the ammunition you own, etc. That, again, is another violation of our Constitution with the Fifth Amendment as far as self-incrimination, is it not?
Absolutely, but, the Fifth and Sixth Amendments were essentially done away, and the Fourth, Fifth, and Sixth Amendments, that trio of amendments were essentially de facto repealed by the Patriot Act and by the National Defense Authorization Act of 2011. Those three protection of our civil liberty essentially don't exist anymore, Zeb.
You said last program, and I don't remember the exact verbiage, but you said that you honestly expected something to be coming down the pike in the not-too-distant future, and that really got my attention. Why do you feel that there's going to be a real hurry and scurry by this administration to get this done?
Well, I feel, for one main reason, two reasons, I guess. One, because President Obama is lame duck and he doesn't have to rely on being reelected. And number two, he has never before has any president made statements aggrandizing himself and granting himself more absolute power than this president. I mean, he has made it very clear that he will not wait for Congress to pass laws. He will issue executive orders and enforce them using executive departments such as Homeland Security and the Department of Justice and the FBI, etc. Never before has anyone made these statements there. Our forefathers rose up and, revolted against a tyrant who they accused of being, an absolute tyrant. King George couldn't hold Barack Obama's water when it comes to being a tyrant. This man has done more unilaterally unilaterally to destroy basic civil liberty than any tyrant that has ever, any ruler that has ever ruled the United States, including when it was a British colony. And I think that's the first thing. This man has assumed power to a degree never before seen. And I think the second, he has vision to completely take upon himself the right to make law. He now is in a position where he can pivot away from Congress and away from the people and toward his own vision of what a socialist country should be and how he can do it with simply a stroke of his pen. And I think the thing that he's made clearest, and now and boy, I wish all of your listeners could go and read the article on the joint EU and U.S. summit statement. Nothing could be clearer to us that our right to keep and bear arms and our right to protect ourselves from tyranny, let's not get it twisted. Our founding fathers, it wasn't about hunting. It was about protecting ourselves from tyrants when the time comes. Nothing could be clearer that those rights are under direct assault by a tyrant than the fact that that tyrant signed a letter, a joint statement, the last paragraph of which directly calls for the disarmament of civilians under the United Nations Arms Trade Treaty.
Yeah, and I want to talk...
I think every American who values their rights and values and understands the source of those rights should be literally up in arms at this point.
I've only got about 3 minutes left, and Joe, I want you to elaborate on this. You know, they basically have told us for years, not so much in speech or any kind of printed verbiage, but they've told us through their actions. And all you have to do is go to the United Nations building in New York City, and one of the great big sculptures out in front of the United Nations is a pistol with a barrel tied in a knot. These people have hated guns. They've hated private ownership of guns. They've been just waiting for somebody like Obama to come down the pike so that they could utilize the United Nations powers over the United States. I don't think it's going to be our troops. I don't think it's going to be anybody here from the United States. I think it's going to be UN people that are going to cause the problem. How off base am I?
Well, I was there, as you know, when they negotiated this arms trade treaty, and this was a compromise, if you can believe it. For those of you, of your listeners who've read it, this treaty was a compromise. They certainly wanted to make more of a direct assault on private gun ownership than they did, if that were even possible. I mean, they would have outlawed, the ownership of bats and slingshots had it not been for efforts of people like me and others to talk some sense into them. But I think that they do realize that they have a friend in Barack Obama, and they realize the time is now. And I think that it's only been a few days since he reaffirmed his commitment to taking guns from every American. And I think that, you say it's going to be UN troops. I don't think it has to be. We've put our troops under that UN flag so many times. I think that it could very well be like I say, following the British model and be Homeland Security troops that come and enforce the arms trade treaty. Now, of course, we'll be, as I said, President Obama is not interested in having a treaty signed or ratified by the Senate. He doesn't care anymore. He's declared, if I need to do things for the safety of the United States, I'll do it with my pen, and I will not wait for Congress. He has made that clear. And I can only imagine, Zeb, how George Washington, John Hancock, Sam Adams, how they would have acted had George III made such a declaration.
Absolutely. Short answer on this, I'm almost out of time, but we at that stage, are a captured people with no hope in the future for anything to rely on the world's best Constitution. At that juncture, it's over.
Well, I don't think it's over yet, because I don't think if everyone in America understood what was happening and decided they didn't care, I would say it's over. But Zeb, the thing you do that brings the blessings of the Almighty down on you is that you are trying to wake people up, and you're doing it every dadgum day, and I know he's grateful, and I'm grateful, and because of efforts of people like you, I don't think it's over. I think there's still people to be woke up, and I think there's a lot of people when we get them roused from that slumber, they're going to say, hey, enough's enough, and join the fight.
I agree. There's just not enough time, Joe. I wished I had another half hour, but Joe Wolverton, excellent. Sorry, caller, I'm out of time. I really apologize. You did a wonderful job. Joe, please come back next week. If we can find the time that's amenable to your schedule, I'd love to have you back.
Just let me know, and I'll be there for you.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
To the callers that were waiting, I just flat ran out of time. I apologize, because right now I got to tell everybody about a big spring tire sale going on at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you. Yep, let's tell you who they are. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family over in Paul, John on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. They've got all the tires on sale, like the Ultra Z900, their best all-season touring tire. Of course, they've got for your pick-em-up trucks the Open Country AT2, their best traction light truck tire, and all the batteries. And, of course, they've got custom wheels on sale, the best in brake service. It's all there. It's all there at all 7 locations. Big spring tire sale going on right now at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. You stop in and see them today. Wow, I wished I would have had time for some of those calls. I apologize, but we have to bow to the altar of the great big clock and adhere to that. Tomorrow on the program, we're expecting to have Joe Klein come on the program, along with a gentleman that's appeared on many, many talk shows all across this great country. He is from New Zealand, and he is telling Americans to wake up before it's too late. His name is Trevor Loudon. We're going to have him on. And then, of course, Dr. History, and then a new person that we've never had on before, Sandy Botkin. It's going to be really an eye-opening experience tomorrow with some of the guests that we have on from all over the United States. And quite frankly, Trevor is from New Zealand visiting here again in the United States. So don't miss it tomorrow. Going to be a lot of fun. Want to remind you again, the tickets are on sale for the Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, the Night of Patriots and Today's Heroes. Go to www.sergeantchrisworkmanscholarship.com or call 436-4149. That's going to be on April 12th at the Fine Arts Center, at the King Fine Arts Center in Burley. Don't miss it. Until tomorrow, God bless you and your family. The way things were, the way things ought to be. Zeb at the Ranch. See you tomorrow morning at 8:06.